Good afternoon. Welcome to RSBN Live. I'm Matthew Alvarez. Coming up at 1 o'clock Eastern Time, the Department of Justice will hold a press conference. As for the president, he has a number of closed press events today, including a 2:30 Eastern signing time. If anything opens to the press, we're here for it, of course. Before we get to the news of the day, let's go live to the president and founder of the Texas Youth Summit. Christian Collins will be joining us any minute from now here on the network. We have a number of other live interviews as well throughout the day. So I guess what we'll do is, if the first person of the day is not on right now, we can go to President Trump's press gaggle just last night in Ohio.
So the Patriot Games were tremendous, a tremendous success. Great young athletes, the future of our country. And we had a great time in Ohio, a fantastic time in Ohio. The country's doing well, the stock market, fantastic record. We have 79 records so far in a short period of time. More people are working right now in the United States than ever before, and prices are dropping fast. Iran is going fine, going just absolutely fine. We totally control the Strait of Hormuz. We have control over it. Nobody else, only us. Our Navy is unbelievable, and things are going great for our country. Go ahead.
President, can you tell us about your ride on the airport catering truck in Turkey? Why did you need to do that?
It's only up to Secret Service. I just follow what they'd like to do. So I go by Secret Service and the military. They wanted me to go on a different flight, a different plane, equal safety, but they wanted me to do it, so I do it. I do what they say.
What was the nature of the threat?
There was a threat out there. I didn't really ask too much about it. I get a lot of threats.
President, Darlene Graham has made it to the runoff election in South Carolina. What are you going to do to help her get over the finish line?
She just called me to thank me for the endorsement, and it's great that she's doing so well, and she's a very good woman. And she's got good genetics because she's related to Lindsay, who's a real professional. So we'll see. I'm going to call her right now. She just called me 2 minutes ago. She won by how many points?
Well, it's not done yet, but she's clearly the victor as opposed to all the other people.
And that's good. That's what she wants.
Will you campaign for her down in South Carolina?
I mean, just so you understand, I like the other people in the race also. They're all Trump. I mean, they're all Trumpers, but I endorsed her. I think she's great. It's really in honor of her brother, and she's really a very smart woman. You know, Lindsay loved his sister. More than anything else, he would tell me about his sister, that she's just outstanding. Yeah, he actually said she's better than him. That was hard for Lindsay to say. So she's out there. She's doing a great job.
Mr. President, you've mentioned 2028 several times in the last few weeks. At the dinner, you put on a Trump 2028 hat. Are you serious about seeking a third term?
Everybody asks me that question, and you know that the law is very strong on that. I'd love to run, but the law is very strong. I get asked by well, even tonight, they're screaming at the event, 2028. No, everybody wants me to do it, but the law is very strong. Thank you very much, everybody.
Mr. President,
The Turkey flight, Air Force One still flew out of Turkey with press and with White House officials on it. How much of jeopardy?
This one went over to England when it was shown to the soldiers.
It's still at risk, even though you weren't.
It went over to England because the soldiers wanted to see it.
Right, the one that flew.
And they showed it to the soldiers, and we did a switch over there. And it was really as per the military, and I just have to do what they say. They go for safety, and I have to do what they say.
why was
President,
it
on the midterm,
for you to fly on Air Force One, but not too dangerous for the press?
The plane that I flew on was at greater risk. I think it was
say that, Mr. President.
That would be the plane I think that they would be more likely to go for.
Mr. President,
Were you surprised, Mr. President, that the Secret Service was telling you to take that third plane?
Not surprised. I have a lot of threats. I have a lot of threats that you don't know about. Any consequential president has a lot of threats. Non-consequential presidents don't get threats. And I think that I'm maybe the most consequential.
Mr. Rod to
President,
pulling
may I
something off.
Nobody's done more than me in a period of almost 6 years. There's nobody.
are you worried about a
President.
shoulder-fired missile?
I don't worry about anything, to be honest. Whatever it is, you know my attitude, whatever.
Mr.
How
President,
can you trust Iran at all. And they tried to kill you, Mr. President.
Why? Are you saying I trust Iran? I'm the last person to trust Iran. They've lied to me constantly. We have total control over the Hormuz Strait right now. They don't have control. We have total control. We own it. And at some point, maybe they'll do something and then they get blown away. But right now, we're in a very good position. We have a country that has been the bully of the Middle East for 50 years. It's really 51 if you think about it. Right? We've been saying 47 for 4 years. And they're no longer the bully of the Middle East. Thank you very much, everybody.
Of course, that from the president just yesterday in Ohio. We're going to go to the Patriot game recap here in just a second. Let's go to a few sponsors. First, allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN is one of our great sponsors here. If you've been hearing more about peptides lately, you may be wondering what these options are and where to find them. You already know All Family Pharmacy is RSBN's trusted pharmacy partner, but did you know they also offer peptides and biohacking options? Now, for those of you looking to support your overall wellness, energy, recovery, or weight management goals, they offer different options worth checking out. Now, 25% off, and that includes NAD+, one of the most popular biohacking options right now, commonly used to support cellular energy and healthy aging. They also offer glutathione. This is for antioxidant support, Somorlin to support the body's natural growth hormone production, and GLP-1, these options for weight loss. You can learn more and submit your order online at allfamilypharmacy.com/biohacking with that code RSBN25. Now, a licensed physician from their team reviews your information and, if appropriate, issues the prescription. All Family Pharmacy handles the fulfillment and shipping all in one place, making the entire process super convenient. So you can see what might be right for you. Visit allfamilypharmacy.com/biohacking. Use that code RSBN25. You can save 25% before Sunday, August 16th. And the owner of All Family Pharmacy, Michael Kunzler, will be joining us in just about 5 minutes from now to talk about the biohacking sale. Let's go to Birch Gold Group in the meantime as well. You know, you don't wait until your house is on fire to install a smoke detector, and you don't wait until the wind and rain hammer your windows and the power goes out to prepare for a hurricane. And of course, you don't reach for your seatbelt after the impact, because after the crash, the hurricane, or the house fire, it's just too late. Now, within that framework, you don't wait until the dollar goes to zero before you buy gold. It's just really too late then. So you can diversify with precious metals now, because you never know what will threaten your savings next. Persistent inflation, a weakening dollar, unexpected financial disruptions. You really don't know what's coming, but you can take a preventative step, and you can do that right now by requesting a free info kit on gold from our friends at Birch Gold Group. Just text Trump to the number 989898. There's no cost, no obligation, just straightforward information on how you can diversify your savings, even an IRA or 401k with gold. We trust Birch Gold. You can trust them too. Just text Trump to 989898. Let's do this. Let's take a quick commercial break. Actually, let's do the recap of the Patriot games from President Trump being there in Ohio just yesterday. Let's go to that right now.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the 45th and 47th President of the United States of America, President Donald J. Trump. He is joined by the one and only Pat McAfee, leading our 2026 Patriot Games final 8 athletes, competing for $250,000 in scholarship money.
Awesome stuff yesterday at the Patriot Games in Ohio. There's a few more clips we'll get to a little bit later in the broadcast as we are awaiting the 1 o'clock, actually, yeah, it's the 1 o'clock Eastern Time Department of Justice press conference. We'll go to that once we see it. Also, the president has a few events going on today. They're all closed to the press. If any of them open, like the signing time that we saw the other day open for executive orders, well, that's at 2:30 Eastern today. So if that does open, we'll have it here on the network. Joining us now is the owner of All Family Pharmacy, Michael Kunzler. Thanks so much for returning to the show, sir.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Definitely. All right, so we look at this biohacking sale. We see 25% off. Awesome stuff. Can you talk to us about those options once again? And can we start with the GLP-1? Is that how you say it, just GLP-1?
Yeah, GLP-1, GLP-2, they're known as tirzepatide. The weight loss drugs by Eli Lilly, we compound them in different strengths, different forms, mixed with B12 to provide energy, to provide a better metabolism boost as well. And it gives us the ability to compound it direct for a patient, based on a medical condition. And so we offer GLPs, we offer NAD+, which are our favorite biohacking drugs on top of glutathione and sermorelin. Sermorelin being that FDA-approved peptide for natural growth hormone helping with the body's ability to produce or spike the metabolism, help with muscle preservation, especially when you're on a GLP or a weight loss drug, and then as well as better rest and recovery. We have tons and tons of patients who love it because it helps them sleep at night. It puts them in a deeper sleep where your body's producing those growth hormones and they're able to sleep throughout the night. We've gotten great progress from a lot of our patients about it. And so we continue to offer it on our biohacking page. And then, of course, methylene blue, one of the fan favorites. RFK Jr. loves that drug. I take methylene blue. I think it's outstanding. And it's definitely one that I highly suggest. And again, when we run these sales like this, it's an encouragement to our patients and to the listeners to try one of these drugs. You're getting it 25% off. We're going to send that over to a licensed physician. They're going to verify that the medication is not going to harm you and that it suits your medical profile. And if so, if they deem it's necessary, they send us that prescription and we ship it directly to your house. FedEx overnight delivery, so you get it next day. We try to get it out as fast as possible. We try to make things as convenient as possible.
On top of that, you were talking about some of those natural growth hormone production when it comes to sermorelin to support the body's natural growth hormone there, and then glutathione for antioxidant support. So if I was on allfamilypharmacy.com and I picked up some of the glutathione, and then do you guys also have vitamin packs and stuff as well, or is it just prescription medication?
Yes, we have over-the-counter vitamins, magnesium glycinate, which is it's probably the most popular vitamin in the world. Most people take it for sleep as it helps with sleep. So we offer the magnesium, and then we have, which is one of my favorites, the immune support, 50 milligrams of zinc, vitamin D3, zinc, quercetin, and selenium. One of the greatest immune support vitamins I've ever taken. I love it. It builds my immune system. We're walking right into flu season in a month or two. Kids are back to school. All of those bacterias and nasty stuff that kids bring home every day. It's great to keep your immune system high. And if you want a suggestion that's not FDA approved yet, but it got the green light in July at the FDA meeting, thymosin alpha-1 is one of my favorites. It's an immunomodulating peptide. It's not approved yet, although the FDA is working on getting it on the 503A list, allowing us to provide it. It's an immunomodulator that it builds your body's immune system and it tells it what to fight. We offer it on immunosupport.com using the RSBN 25 coupon code. It is amazing. I myself take it. I love it. It's something that I'm hoping the FDA allows us to compound for our patients. That way flu season will be so much easier for mom and dad at home, especially when kids are back to school, especially when you're traveling or it's the holiday season.
Exactly. And then sometimes the unexpected illnesses that happen, that cyclospora parasite that kicked off, the 31 states affected by that. During that time, what was the influx like for you guys there at All Family Pharmacy with people asking questions and ordering? Was it Bactrim for that to take care of that?
Yes, the Bactrim DS 800. So we've been offering it since day one of the cyclospora, and we're continuing to offer it. I think we go through over 5,000 tablets a day on average. It is a very popular antibiotic that's being used right now for cyclospora, for the sickness from it, or people having it on hand in case they get it. There are tons and tons of cases that are coming out right now. The greatest part about it is it costs maybe $20. It's very cheap. It's not an expensive drug. It's something we encourage people to have put in your medicine cabinet in case you come down with cyclospora, because you don't want those long-term symptoms from it. You've got to kick it out right away within the first few days. That way these things don't linger, because if you've seen what the data is suggesting, people who are not treating it, they're having symptoms for a month, and it's not a comfortable symptom: diarrhea, dehydration, stomach cramping, all of that stuff that's not comfortable. So Bactrim, it's $20. We offer it in tablet form. We offered it in a suspension or liquid form. So it's a great product to have at home. Expiration date is well over a year, so it will last quite some time. So we do highly suggest to have that.
So you have the antibiotics, you have the vitamins, you have the preventative measures as well when it comes to the NAD+. Let's highlight that one more time for those that are joining the broadcast or just maybe watching mid-interview. You were saying RFK Jr. takes that. You take that. I haven't tried it yet. What is the actual, does it make you feel a certain way? And is it a natural kind of, coming from natural things for the drug? Tell us about NAD+ more.
NAD+, that one is a coenzyme that your body produces. It's the battery to your cells, right? It produces your body's output of energy. So how you feel on it is great. You feel like a natural surge of energy. It's not like caffeine. It's not a stimulant that's just going to boost you like taking a double espresso. It's going to be more of a natural boost, like a euphoric feeling, and which is why I love it, because it is a natural boost. And at the end of the day, your heart is not racing. Your anxiety is not through the roof. It's more of a natural come down. And it actually has shown that it helps with sleep and recovery. Because of that, you're allowing your cells to kind of relax in a manner where your body can set itself back to sleep and then wake up without high levels of stress and inflammation. So we do suggest the NAD+. We have tons and tons and tons of patients who love it. I have a lot of doctors who have been prescribing it for now a couple years. It's just come to the public market about a year or two ago. The unfortunate thing is Hollywood and the elites out there, they've had access to this for years now. They've been doing it through IVs and expensive drips, and this is how they get through those 72 hours of no sleep and pushing themselves through all that nasty stuff they do. And they use NAD+ IVs and drips to do that, whereas we just do it as a simple injection every other day, and it boosts your body's natural ability to continue to produce the NAD as well as a cellular charge the body.
So when someone calls allfamilypharmacy.com or emails you guys or chats with you guys, are they accessing U.S. licensed physicians and pharmacists there, or is it staff, which is the same difference, right? To ask questions about the medications, to ask questions about biohacking, because some people think, man, they hear the word biohacking, like, what are you talking about? Because there's still some people out there, as you know, don't know about these options.
Yeah. So when you call the pharmacy, you are calling the pharmacy directly. This is not like an offshore call center. It's not like you're calling Comcast and you're getting a Filipino or an Indian, thousands and thousands of miles away. You're speaking to an American here. They're a customer service representative. They're a pharmacy technician. They're a pharmacist. And then we do have 3 to 5 subcontracted MDs who are not located within the pharmacy because regulation does not allow a doctor in a pharmacy. They are located outside of the pharmacy, but we can put you in touch with them as well. Specifically, when it comes down to medication, there's nobody who knows more about medication than a pharmacist, right? They go to school for years and years to study medication. This is their specialty. Side effects, the profile, everything. So when you call the pharmacy, you're getting the knowledge of the pharmacist, the technician directly, as well as the physicians on staff that we have. So you are speaking to Americans. They are located in the pharmacy and they are well versed. Our pharmacists every day have meetings with our staff to go over all of these different medications and to go over different topics that people are bringing to the table, and that way we can answer things properly. And you're always welcome to speak to a pharmacist.
Always good to have that access with All Family Pharmacy. And then also, finally, the RSBN 25, the 25% off. I'm mentioning here on the air that it goes through Sunday, August 16th. When I say through or by August 16th, is it still Sunday if someone purchases at 5 p.m. Eastern time on the 16th? Are they still getting that 25%?
Yeah, it ends at 11:59 p.m. So we give it to you all the way up until the last second of the day. It will be available until Sunday to place your orders. So it's a great time. Obviously, with products like this, we don't ship on Friday, Saturday, Sunday because they require a overnight cold packed shipping. We keep these products nice, the temperature down while we're shipping it, so we cannot ship it on a Friday for that specific reason. So if you do need it as soon as possible, I'd suggest ordering it now. If not, the order does go out later in the week or at the end of the beginning of next week. One other thing that I'm going to throw in there that we just came out is we have ivermectin tablets now. We used to do a lot of capsules. We're doing a couple tests on some ivermectin tablets. We're doing a low-dose ivermectin tablet. We think it's going to be great for a pediatric dose, a veterinarian dose. It's going to be good for a longevity dose or prevention dose. It's a 4 milligram tablet. I think we're offering them at like 75 cents a tablet, something cheap like that. And you can buy them in 50, 100 count bottles. You've got to check the website out. We're offering it just for about a week or two. We're testing it out to see the waters because we're getting a lot of good data about low dose ivermectin being used in a longevity protocol. So we're going to offer it to all RSBN listeners as well. It is available on the website. I just wanted to throw that in there because it just came out about an hour ago. We just got out of our meetings about it, and it is available now on the website.
That's awesome stuff. It is always good to have ivermectin on hand, and now we're seeing this 4 milligram dose there that seems like it would be perfect to get. All Family Pharmacy owner Michael Kunzler, thanks again for joining us. Thanks for updating on us what's going on there, and we'll see you again soon.
Hey, thank you.
Definitely. Awesome stuff there with the owner of All Family Pharmacy coming out of these meetings that are happening and sharing information with you guys right here on the network. It's 12:26 on the East Coast, 9:26 out there on the West Coast. Thanks so much for watching from coast to coast and in the Central Time Zone and the Mountain Time Zone as well. And anywhere else that you may be watching right now, a live look out there in D.C. Of course, that camera ships back and forth between the water there next to the Thomas Jefferson Memorial. Speaking of that, that's pretty cool. I don't think we have control of that camera. And there you go. Thomas Jefferson, our third president, one of the greatest of all time, of course. And we know President Trump, the greatest of our lifetime as well. He's right there with all of these awesome presidents because he is an outsider and did some awesome things. And we're looking forward to even more here in our country. All right. So what we're going to do is this. We have another live interview coming up, so let's go to a couple of our sponsors in the meantime here on Right Side Broadcasting Network, Kalshi.com/RSBN. Of course, you could download the app if you'd like. You can go to the QR code. You can go to the website, Kalshi.com/RSBN. Yeah, that's 3 ways to get to Kalshi. So there's a lot of political trending topics there. And of course, there are still more primary elections coming up. Of course, we saw a number of the results from yesterday in various states. And as we continue our coverage, we'll be talking about Wisconsin a little bit. We'll be talking about a state that didn't have a primary election yesterday, Michigan. But we'll get to all of that in a second. But let's also go to one more sponsor before we go to our next live interview, covepure.com/RSBN. Most of us know there's chlorine in our tap water. We sometimes can smell it, then we shrug, and we just drink it anyway because we've been told it's what keeps our water safe. But what they don't tell you is what chlorine becomes after it's added to your water. And that's why it's so important to filter your water through Cove Pure, because chlorine itself isn't even the biggest problem. Chlorine levels in your water are regulated, but what's not regulated are those chemicals that form when chlorine reacts with naturally occurring organic matter from rivers, soil, and plant matter. When chlorine interacts with those particles, it creates chemical byproducts called THMs. And the government itself calls these THMs probable human carcinogens, and they've been linked to disruption of your gut and to cancer. So the pitcher filters that you see at the store, they simply won't fix this because, they can improve the taste of chlorine by masking it, but THMs require something far more powerful, and that's exactly what Cove Pure is. Their Clear Wave reverse osmosis technology is certified to remove up to 99.9% of contaminants, and it's not just chlorine or THMs, fluoride, PFAs, pharmaceuticals. If it isn't water, Cove Pure simply removes it. And this thing doesn't take up much room at all. You can just sit it on your countertop. You plug it in, as you see right there. You don't need to call someone in to install it. And with a tap of a button, you'll get hot, cold, or warm water instantly. And finally, the feedback on Cove Pure from our viewers has been incredible. People have told us they can literally taste the difference, and clean water is one of the best investments you can make for you and your family's health. Right now, they're giving RSBN viewers $250 off if you use our link. So just go to covepure.com/RSBN. Again, covepure.com/RSBN. Once again, good afternoon and welcome to RSBN Live. I'm Matthew Alvarez. Coming up at 1 o'clock Eastern, the Department of Justice will hold a press conference. As for the president, he has a number of closed press events today, including that 2:30 Eastern signing time. So if anything opens to the press, of course, we're here for it on Right Side Broadcasting Network. All right, let's go now to our next live interview here on Right Side Broadcasting Network, including Christian Collins, who's joining us now. Thank you so much for joining us, Christian.
Well, it's such an honor to get to be on with you. Thank you so much for all you do around the country.
Thanks, and thanks for what you're doing with the Texas Youth Summit coming up, I believe, in October, right? Can you tell us a little bit about that summit?
Well, it's October 9th and 10th, and Right Side Broadcasting Network has been a partner for years, and we're excited for all the great work that we are getting to do. I started this summit about 8 years ago, and it's grown tremendously. Last year, we had 3,500 people there, and young people are excited about Christian and conservative values. I'm thankful for Donald Trump Jr., who really put us on the map from 21 to 24. He was, of course, campaigning for his father. We are 501c3 and 501c4, and we're doing the great work to reach hearts and minds. I've had many partners through the years. Charlie Kirk, the late Charlie Kirk, of course, just amazing that he was at our conference quite a few times. I was blessed to get to be at his, and we've grown this tremendously. It has had our governor, our lieutenant governor, our attorney general, our senators, just everyone in our state is now involved and engaged in what we're doing with the youth.
That's awesome. It's awesome to see that. Some of the speaker list, the speaker lineup, pretty awesome speakers that you have. Can you tell us a few of those?
Yeah, we have this year Tulsi Gabbard. We're extremely excited to have her there. Of course, Nick Shirley. He's new on the scene and he's really exposing all the fraud. Brandon Gill, he's really pushed back on the mass migration stuff. And of course, Riley Gaines has worked hard to keep men out of women's sports. And the list goes on. Some Maha people from Alex Clark to Yeonmi Park, who has an amazing story being a North Korean defector. And just amazing life stories represented at this event. And we're excited to continue to reintroduce some speakers that have been there in the past and then also introduce some new ones coming up. So we're excited to roll those out in the next couple of weeks.
That's really awesome. Why do you do what you do every day, and why did you originally get involved in politics in the first place?
Well, my dad was a pastor, and I've always wanted to not just be successful, but do something that brought my life significance. And for a long time, I thought I was going to be a pastor, and maybe one day I will. But this, I believe, is a ministry. And it's not just to get Christians engaged in the political arena, which I think is so important. I think more Christians need to get off the sidelines and get involved in politics. But I also want Republicans or conservatives to be stronger Christians. And last year, in the wake of Charlie Kirk's assassination, we had a worship service, and over 100 kids gave their lives to Christ. And we've always been about Christian values. Of course, we're pro-life, we're support two genders, all the things that Christians should support. But we want people to encounter Jesus Christ, and it's an amazing experience getting to be there at the conference. And we're so excited about the good work that we're going to do to share the gospel and conservative values.
It's awesome. It's awesome because the speaker lineup is epic. It's a great speaker lineup. People on the right side of history. I mean, Brandon Gill, the Texas congressman. I mean, that's awesome to have him there. Also, the aspect of spirituality, Jesus, right? The Holy Spirit, praise and worship music. These are the kind of things, if we think about it, back in the day with our founding fathers moving on as our Christian founding, of course, Judeo-Christian founding, will there be praise and worship at that conference? Are there bands that are kind of like cover bands that play Christian music, or are there named artists, that kind of thing? I mean, regardless, to be honest, I like both. But can you tell us about any of that?
Well, we're supposed to announce very soon that Mercy Culture Worship from Dallas will be involved in what we're doing this year. I think I've got permission to say that, so it's incredible And we've got a lot of good things coming up. Last year we had an amazing worship time, and just it was exciting to see so many young people lifting up their hands. And that's what we want. 29 of the 56 framers of the Constitution were seminary graduates, and the two so-called deists, Thomas Jefferson and Benjamin Franklin, they actually prayed with that body, and it's debatable whether they really truly were deist. And so we have a Christian nation for a reason. We've got to fight to conserve those values. And if you go in Washington, where you are, all across the DC, you'll see monuments to the Bible, to Christian values, to God. And you see in the Capitol building, Moses handing down the Ten Commandments. He's a lawgiver. And so our foundation as a country was our Constitution was really extracted from the Pentateuch, the first 5 books of the Bible. And so we've had a lot of Christian influence. And when we talk about being a conservative, we got to conserve our Christian values. And we're really excited to get to do that at the Texas Youth Summit.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that. Maybe RSBN will be in attendance there in Texas. Who knows? But at least airing it on the network. And finally, Sight and Sound, right? Lancaster, Pennsylvania, Branson, Missouri, a number of great plays that are done there. Have you seen or heard of the new movie, A Great Awakening?
I've heard a lot about it. Is that a movie about George Whitefield and everything that happened pre-American Revolution?
Yeah, exactly. So it talks about that before the revolution, there was a revelation, right? And it's just a very powerful, moving movie. I've seen it twice. I can't get enough of that movie when it comes to when you're thinking about politics, or you're thinking about spirituality or whatever. Super encouraging. And it's awesome to see people like yourself in this great youth summit that is fanning the flame, figuratively speaking, of a move of God, really.
Exactly, because as conservatives, we shouldn't just try to lower the corporate tax rate a little bit and let our culture go to hell. We've got to fight to stand up for what's right. And I think most importantly, if people experience the presence of God, they'll be inspired and encouraged and know that God is real. And for people to feel like God is leading their lives. I know George Washington has a ton of writings where he talked about how God divinely orchestrated the events in his lives. Ronald Reagan talked about the same thing. And we need leaders to be risen up in our country. And maybe the next president will be from the Texas Youth Summit. We need leaders to rise up and take back our nation for Christian values. Second, we need revival in America. And, my organization exists to do just that. And I built it with so many great people that are helping make this possible. So I'm just so grateful for Right Side Broadcasting Network and all your support to amplify that message. And I'm super excited to get to be on with you today.
And I'm excited to have you here. I was going to keep saying finally, and I'll let you go, but you keep talking, and it makes me have more questions.
Yeah.
First,
please.
more of a fun kind of thing, tongue-in-cheek question. Will there be a Senator Christian Collins out of Texas ever?
Well, I ran for office in 2022. I was grateful, and Right Side Broadcasting Network covered my rally, and I had a lot of good people there, from Mike Lindell and Marjorie Taylor Greene, and people that were there supporting me back then. And I first time ever running, I got second place. We raised some pretty good money, but I was a novice and didn't know a lot. And I recently got married, and that's just been the main focus of my life is building my marriage. I got married a little later in life. I'm 37, and just grateful to have met the one finally. And Charlie Kirk, I'll tell you a quick story, used to always be on me. And he'd come to our conference and said, Christian, why can't you find somebody? He'd look up, just go pick someone. Just go pick someone. I'm like, Charlie, it's not that easy. It's not that easy. You were selective and you were careful, but thankfully I got to talk with him 2 months back in July of last year before his assassination. And I got to tell him, Charlie, I finally met someone, and he was just so happy for me and, beamed with joy for me. And I'm thankful to have had that conversation with him. And that's my focus, is building my marriage and building that foundation. And I hope to be, most importantly, aside from glorifying God with my life and using my time to glorify him, I hope to be a great husband and father, and just let the rest flow from that. But Abraham Lincoln always said, you'll prepare yourself now because maybe one day your opportunity will come. And I will always be prepared in case something opens up that's a fit for me. But in the meantime, I feel like we're having, the biggest leaders in the country. And it's just truly an honor to get to do this event. And, I'm doing work on college and high school campuses, speaking to young people. I'm speaking to churches across the country. These are the things that, that is where God's assigned me right now. My last thing I'll say is my mission, is always the same. It's to glorify God, and it's to advance Christian and conservative principles while I'm here. And right now I'm doing that as an activist, but as an elected official, I'd love to one day if he opens up that door.
Yeah, no, that'd be awesome. I mean, it's great what you're doing right now, but if it happens, to your point, another way, great. But it must feel good to have the part of your purpose, or maybe your full purpose, being satisfied each day as doing something to that point, conservative Christian, messaging out there in a world that needs to hear it. I mean, I know you and I can probably go on for another 3 hours, to be honest. One other thing, I also got married late in my 30s, and thank God for that, because getting married and having a family is one of the greatest things you can do outside of loving God on earth. And then from there, develop and become the best person you can be on earth, right? But outside of that, I want to get back to one more thing that I think is really important, because you used the words, the presence of God, earlier, and you said to know that he is real. And that's exactly, I've said that before here, and I know we don't always go down the super spiritual path here on the network because there's a lot of news to cover, but when you talk about it, I got to bring it up because I love that stuff, right? So the presence of God, how awesome is that? The Holy Spirit, for people to really know without a shadow of a doubt that he actually exists, and he actually, not to sound corny or whatever, but God the Father wants to give his people a hug. You know what I mean? And you can get that with the Holy Spirit, can't you?
Amen. Yes. I'll tell you that, my story, I grew up a pastor's kid. I fell away from God. I was agnostic for a while. I kept the Bible near my bed in college, but I didn't read it. And, God got a hold of me. I read Lee Strobel's book, A Case for Christ, which engaged my mind. The apologetics helped me realize that the gospel could be true. And after reading that book and the corroborating evidences, I believed that, the resurrection could have happened. And the entire gospel message hinges on whether Jesus actually rose from the dead. And if he didn't do that, then he's just a martyr. But if he did that, he's Lord. He's either a liar, he's a lunatic, or he's Lord. And I started to believe that it could be the third. Like I said, that book engaged my mind, but it was going to a church, a spirit-filled church, and experiencing God at the altar, and experiencing the presence of God. And I like to say this, I think anyone should go to any good Bible-believing church, but some churches are a little different than others because they welcome the gifts of the Spirit and the presence of God in to that place. And I think it's incredibly important. And so I've seen the difference just recently, in my own faith journey, recognizing that, okay, the presence of God is real, and it's tangible, and it can change you. It can change your heart. It can change your mind and out. And we want people to experience at the Texas Youth Summit their faith journey. We want them to experience the presence of God, teaching them the Christian values, the Judeo-Christian values that we teach them will be a lot easier. But having God be the foundation, that's the starting point. And we want all of our politicians who can be very cynical sometimes, or, they're out there fighting in Republican primaries and, fighting Democrats. And, there's all kinds of things that go on in Austin or Washington. And that can just pull them and distract them and pull them away. But, I've had politicians come to this summit, and especially last year, never experienced anything like this and experienced the presence of God. And it was powerful.
It's exactly right. You're seeing the language of many people out there that experience actual living, breathing Holy Spirit. And to your point, if Jesus didn't resurrect, it would be in vain. But you and I and many across this country and many across the world believe that he didn't stay dead, and on that third day got out of that grave, rose again, and not only rose again, went up to heaven. He's going to return the same way he went up one of these days in the future. I am getting too pumped talking to you, man. Christian,
I feel the same way.
Right? I mean, Christian, I'm going to give you a call this week, man. We got to talk about This is awesome. This is the president and founder of the Collins. Thanks again for joining.
Honored to get the opportunity. Thank you so much.
Awesome stuff. The president of, heard of, but the fact that will be there, Riley, Gill, and that it's geared toward that faith and freedom aspect. There are two things that I like: faith and freedom. And are we perfect things? Heck no. If we were, Jesus. So my point is, thank God for faith and freedom, and thank God for freedom of speech here in conservative media. Wow. Let's go to a few of our sponsors in the meantime as we await that DOJ press conference. Before we go to those sponsors, let's just go to a commercial break. We'll be right back.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from Diamond and Silk Chit Chat Live. Look, don't forget to watch my show right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's imperative that you do so, okay? Bye-bye.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. Be truth when the mainstream media falls short. We've probably brought every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you you get an unfiltered row view. We interviewed the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
MyPillow's second annual mega sale is finally here. Get our patented premium MyPillows that adjust your exact individual needs to give you the best sleep of your life.
When I got MyPillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
I guarantee they're going to be the most comfortable pillows you'll ever own. King size only $24.98, queen size only $19.98. Giza Dream bed sheets, the best sheets in history, as low as $29.98. Lux Pierce 6-piece towel sets, towels that actually dry you. What a concept. Now only $39.98. And our made in the USA mattresses and mattress toppers as low as $99.98. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of our second annual mega sale. Plus, free shipping options available when you order today. So don't delay, order now.
Welcome back to Right Side Broadcasting Network. Thanks so much for joining us here on this live stream. And if you're watching a replay, thank you for doing so. Also, before we get to some more of our 24/7 news cycle stories and also a breakdown of what's left for the primary election season, let's go to All Family Pharmacy. If you missed it, Michael Kunzler, the owner of All Family Pharmacy, was just on the broadcast. And if you've been hearing more about peptides lately, you may be wondering what these options are and where to find them. You already know All Family Pharmacy as RSBN's trusted pharmacy partner, but did you know they also offer peptides and biohacking options? So for those of you looking to support your overall wellness, energy, recovery, or weight management goals, they offer different options worth checking out, now 25% off. That includes NAD+, one of the most popular biohacking options right now, commonly used to support cellular energy and healthy aging. They also offer glutathione for antioxidant support, Somorelin to support the body's natural growth hormone production, and GLP-1, these options for weight loss. And you can learn more and submit your order online at allfamilypharmacy.com/biohacking with that code RSBN25. Now, a licensed physician from their team reviews your information and, if appropriate, issues the prescription. All Family Pharmacy handles the fulfillment and shipping all in one place, making the entire process super convenient. See what might be right for you if you visit allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN or biohacking in this case, and use that RSBN 25 promo code to get that discount. Let's go to Birch Gold Group as well. You don't wait until your house is on fire to install a smoke detector. You don't wait until the wind and rain hammer your windows and the power goes out to prepare for a hurricane. And of course, you don't reach for your seatbelt after the impact, because after the crash or the hurricane or the house fire, it's just too late. And within that framework, you don't wait until the dollar goes to zero before you buy some gold. It's just too late then. So you can diversify with precious metals now, because you never know what will threaten your savings next. Persistent inflation, a weakening dollar, unexpected financial disruptions. You don't know what's coming, but you can take a preventative step. And you can do that right now by requesting a free info kit on gold from my friends at Birch Gold Group. Just text Trump to that number, 989898. There's no cost, no obligation, just straightforward information on how you can diversify your savings, even an IRA or 401k with gold. Now, we trust Birch Gold. You can trust them too. All you got to do is text Trump to 989898. Get the ball rolling there. Get that free info kit. Again, no obligation. Great sponsor here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. All right, we're about 10 minutes out from the DOJ press conference happening in our nation's capital, and we'll go to that as soon as we see it. Also, President Trump has a number of closed events today in a sense of closed to the press. Sometimes they open. There's one at 2:30 Eastern time. He has a signing time. It's called signing time. Sometimes he signs executive orders during that time. And sometimes it switches from closed press to open press. And then we're here for it and we get to watch it together. If that happens, great. If it doesn't, well, we'll continue our live broadcast as we are here live right now. Referring to the president, let's go back to the Patriot games in Ohio. Let's go to a recap from just last night.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the 45th and 47th President of the United States of America, President Donald J. Trump. He is joined by the one and only Pat McAfee, leading our 2026 Patriot Games Final 8 athletes, competing for $250,000 in scholarship money.
to the 2026 Patriot Games here in Geneva, Ohio, and we are joined by President Trump. It's great to see you, Mr. President. We've seen some incredible competition here at the Patriot Games. What are your thoughts on what you've seen, the effort out of these athletes?
Well, number one, I love Ohio. I really love it. And these are great athletes, so many. I'm sitting next to a whole group of athletes. I can't believe how many, but they are doing fantastically well. Proud of them.
The Patriot Games are a key piece in celebrating America 250. When you think about what this initiative has meant to our country, what comes to mind?
Well, so many different things. And we have the big Indy, Roger Penske's race in 2 weeks in the Capitol. They go around the Capitol, round and round at 200 miles an hour or some ridiculous speed. We had a tremendous UFC fight, you know that. You saw that at the White House, right at the gates of the White House. That was amazing. And it's just been, the July 4th celebration was like none other. I think there's never been anything like it. The largest fireworks ever in the world, they say. So we've had a good time, but this is something very exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing the final.
We're about to see it. And in the spirit of competition, football season is just around the corner. We're very excited to have the Super Bowl on ESPN and ABC this year. So tell us which NFL team you're keeping your eyes on.
Well, I mean, maybe I'll pick a few. I think New England looks good. I think the Giants, I like their quarterback a lot. I think that they say the LA Rams are looking very strong. But I better not get into this too much. I'm going to get myself in trouble if I do. But I think you have a lot of good teams, a lot of great teams, and we'll see how it turns out. I'll be watching.
That was great analysis by you, Mr. President. Enjoy the finale here.
Oh, yeah. And I like a lot of finales. We've had a lot of good finales, but this has been... You know what? This has been as exciting as anything. I got here, I didn't know what to expect. And the Patriot Games is just fantastic. I look at the parents, because a lot of these parents are so proud of their children. And I really am very proud of the group of people in this room. You see the spirit and the love of the country and our great country, and our country's never done better. So good to be with you.
We appreciate your time, Mr. President.
Thank you, Laura.
This hardware, we're going to hand out these checks. But first, Mr. President, what can you say about the competition you saw out here?
Well, incredible people. And I like the audience also, I have to tell you. But what a great bunch of young athletes, right? Great bunch of athletes.
That's well said. Let's go ahead and hand out these trophies. So on the girls' side, our champion and winner of $125,000 from the great state of Kansas, it's Kennedy Furman. And Kennedy, go ahead and grab that trophy and hold it high over your head with your check. Congratulations to Kennedy. And on the boys' side, our champion, winner of $125,000 in scholarship money from the great state of Utah, it's Rockwell Myers. Let him hear it.
Quite the event in Ohio yesterday, the Patriot Games, President Trump in attendance. Great to see that coverage there. All right, parents and grandparents, real talk for a second. Democratic socialists are winning primaries and gaining political influence heading into the 2026 midterms, and their ideas in favor of higher taxes, welfare programs, bigger government are not only threatening our way of life today, but they could destroy your children's future. Your kids are bound to hear more about socialism, communism, that kind of thing as we approach the midterms. But depending on the source, like their public school teachers, they could be hearing that socialism is quote unquote better than capitalism and that socialism is the answer to all of our problems. Parents, trust us on this. You want to be in control of this conversation so your kids don't risk being brainwashed into believing these lies. That's why I want to tell you about the Kids Guide to Fighting Socialism, designed specifically for kids. Now, this important guide explains the differences between capitalism and socialism's big brother, communism, in a way kids can understand. It explains crucial concepts such as free markets, individual freedom, thank God for those, and government overreach. The Kids Guide to Fighting Socialism also keeps kids to understand why socialism and communism have never worked by taking your kids through different historical examples from the Plymouth colony's failed attempt at socialism, Cuba's disastrous situation, and across the globe to the Soviet Union and communist China to really show them how socialistic practices failed miserably. And remember, with the midterms coming up, this is especially important for kids to learn right now. That's why the Kids Guide is giving you the Kids Guide to Fighting Socialism for free today. It's part of a free gift bundle that also includes the Kids Guide to Free and Fair Elections. Now, the guides are free and yours to keep. You just need to pay $2 for shipping and handling with this special offer. To learn more and order your free copy of the Kids Guide to Fighting Socialism and your free bonus guide, just visit kidsfightingsocialism.com. That's kidsfightingsocialism.com. And maybe the most important thing you do for your children or grandchildren this year, and you know what? I think adults should order it too. Why not? kidsfightingsocialism.com. Always good to get the basics down on what we're possibly facing in many ways for the midterm. So we'll see what happens there. As we know, it's freedom on the ballot against socialism and communism, really. So let's go now to mypillow.com. Great sponsor here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. All you have to do is go to mypillow.com/RSBN. A ton of great products right there at your fingertips in the sense of kind of scrolling through and checking it out. From the pillows to the sheets to the mattress topper to the towels, the list goes on to the My Coffee, which I didn't have any coffee today and I wouldn't mind having a sip of Joe. All right, anyway, mypillow.com/RSBN. Great sponsor here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. All right, it's 1:02, Wednesday, August 12th. Thanks again for joining us here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. All right, so we know that in any minute from now that the DOJ has this press conference that's going to start. So once we see that, we'll go to it. In the meantime, as we await that, if the president has any events that are going from closed press to open press, we'll also go to that. But let's go to the Transportation Secretary in the meantime, talking about the air traffic control tower's new radar. And actually, we're hearing that the DOJ presser is starting, so let's go to the DOJ now.
Fraud scheme involving more than 1,000 sham marriages between Chinese nationals and United States citizens, and then the submission of fraudulent applications for green cards. This is one of the largest marriage fraud prosecutions in United States history. This scheme was not a quick fly-by-night operation, but rather a years-long, multi-million-dollar cottage industry to criminally assist people who would not or legally could not otherwise become citizens of the United States. The men and women who facilitated this scheme were all naturalized citizens originally from China and one green card holder. Under President Trump's leadership, the Department of Justice is working alongside our partners at DHS to secure the border and protect American communities, something that was ignored during the last administration. Not only are we protecting our physical borders from unlawful crossings, but we are also preventing immigration fraud schemes that are just another way to skirt the immigration laws of the United States. As alleged, some of the charged defendants acted as facilitators who orchestrated the marriage fraud scheme, pairing foreign nationals seeking immigration status with United States citizens willing to participate and engage in a sham marriage. These facilitators employed attorneys, tax preparers, and marriage officiants. Some of the other charged defendants acted as recruiters, by finding and recruiting United States citizens to participate in the scheme, and other defendants acted as officiants, officiating dozens of these alleged fake marriages. Now, the way that this scheme allegedly worked is the facilitators used social media and other forms of advertising to market fraudulent immigration services to foreign nationals, primarily from China, and Chinese nationals would pay these facilitators as much as $100,000 for assistance in obtaining a marriage, which then allowed them to apply for a green card. The facilitators also paid willing U.S. citizens as much as $30,000 to engage in the sham marriage with the foreign national. Now, often after these phony ceremonies, defendants would stage images of families at restaurants to create the appearance of a legitimate wedding, and some of the defendants also facilitated sham marriages overseas in China. After the marriages took place, the actual ceremony, the then married couples would visit a local office affiliated with the scheme, sign forms for submission to the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, learn about the USCIS interview process to apply for a green card, and then execute prenuptial agreements, which, not surprisingly, given the allegation these were sham marriages, waived their rights to share in the other's estate upon death, child support, and other claims in marital property. One prenuptial agreement even provided that, and I'm quoting from the indictment, except in the name of husband and wife, both parties live independently and must not interfere with each other, end quote. The facilitators of the scheme would then prepare and submit fraudulent green card applications and work with the couples through the immigration process, submitting photographs, opening joint bank accounts, mobile phone accounts, all to obtain green cards to allow them to stay in this country, but that's illegal. These charges and the indictments now unsealed, they show how far people will go to cheat our immigration system. Gaining American citizenship and legal status to reside in this great nation is a sacred privilege, and we will ensure it is always done in accordance with the law protecting our communities and national security. These schemes have real costs. They rob our country of its ability to know who should be and should not be allowed in America. And this department and the Department of Homeland Security will not stand for this. And I think this prosecution and the hard work that went into it with the agents and the prosecutors show that. Our efforts to protect our immigration system and our country's borders are aggressive and exhaustive. No matter how complicated the scam, we will do everything in our power to stop it. Additionally, we've directed the U.S. Attorney's offices around the country and the Criminal Division here at Maine Justice to work with DHS to prioritize the investigation and prosecution of birth tourism schemes. We've also directed the Civil Division to prioritize the denaturalization of naturalized citizens who have obtained citizenship through fraud. Our fantastic lawyers have filed a record number of complaints, more than 120 at this point, since January 20th, 2025. We are a nation of borders and sovereignty. The greatness of America is only as strong as our willingness to protect it, and I am proud to be part of the whole-of-government approach to bring down sophisticated networks like this. This is indicative of the work we're doing to keep America safe. It will continue and will not relent in our efforts to protect national security. I do want to thank the Southern District of New York for their work in this case, and our partners at DHS, HSI, Homeland Security Investigations, and the FBI for the tireless work in investigating this case and bringing this prosecution. I'd like to now turn it over to our newly confirmed by the judges, SDNY United States Attorney Jamie McDonald. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Jamie McDonald, the United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York. As the Attorney General just laid out, today an indictment has been unsealed in the Southern District of New York, charging 11 defendants with an expansive conspiracy to commit marriage and immigration fraud. As alleged in the indictment, over a decade, the defendants and their co-conspirators orchestrated more than 1,000 sham marriages, which were designed to fraudulently obtain lawful permanent resident status, or green cards, for foreign nationals, primarily from the People's Republic of China. The defendants allegedly ran a full-service fraud scheme. The Attorney General laid it out for you, charging fees as much as $100,000 per green card. They recruited U.S. citizens to engage in sham marriages, arranged sham wedding ceremonies, complete with officiants, wedding attire, photographers, and attendees. They put together green card applications with which they submitted to USCIS, and they manufactured evidence in support of these applications, including by staging photographs, opening joint accounts. They coached couples before USCIS interviews, and once a foreign national obtained a green card, they arranged for a divorce. The defendants arrested today played different roles in the scheme. Some ran the operation, identifying foreign nationals who were willing to pay for the green cards. Some found or recruited U.S. citizens to enter into sham marriages and carry out the scheme. And some facilitated the fraudulent applications by leveraging a network of marriage officiants, attorneys, tax preparers, and other service providers. Through this process, the defendants made enormous sums of money for themselves. We believe this network took in tens of millions of dollars over its decade-long operation, making it one of the largest marriage fraud prosecutions in U.S. history. Investigations of this scale require extraordinary teamwork. The charges unsealed today were made possible by a coordinated law enforcement response involving federal, state, local partners working closely with our office. Now, sometimes you all ask, well, how did this investigation, how did this case come together? The way that this case developed was really, truly remarkable. It began with a single communication that our office uncovered in an entirely unrelated case. Our prosecutors identified that communication, thought that it could be tied to a potential marriage and immigration fraud scheme. They moved quickly, they obtained warrant after warrant, and followed the facts where they led. Our prosecutors and our partners analyzed communications, immigration filings, financial records, photographs, and other evidence, and identified the key participants in the scheme and the many, many sham marriages they brokered in furtherance of it. Our prosecutors built and then charged a case aimed at dismantling the network itself. That's what the case today does. Their work wouldn't have been possible without the outstanding contributions of our law enforcement partners, but I do want to note that while this case today is aimed at dismantling the network, our investigation into other aspects of it, going up and down the chain, is continuing. I'd like to take a moment to specifically recognize some of the partners that we worked with for their invaluable contributions. Homeland Security investigations, and in particular the Hudson Valley HSI, the FBI and its Westchester Safe Streets Task Force, the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services Fraud Detection and National Security Directorate, the United States Army Criminal Investigation Division, the Westchester County DA's Office, the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Middle District of Florida, and HSI in Jacksonville. All did extraordinary work with our office to investigate and disrupt this sophisticated and expansive fraudulent network with remarkable speed. I commend our prosecutors and staff in the Southern District of New York, especially in our White Plains office, which is where this investigation was run and where the prosecution will proceed, for their speed, creativity, judgment, and determination with which they built this case. The defendants will be presented in the White Plains White Plains Courthouse later today. I'd also like to thank in particular the Attorney General and his office for his support in this investigation and the continued efforts of our office and all of our law enforcement partners. This case shows what coordination, hard work, this sort of whole of government approach that the Attorney General mentioned, and creativity of our nation's dedicated public servants can accomplish when we work together to protect the public. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Matthew Milholm, the Deputy for Homeland Security Investigations. Today's announcement demonstrates the strength and the purpose of Homeland Security Task Force, bringing together federal, state, and local partners to identify, investigate, and disrupt complex transnational criminal networks that cross jurisdictions and exploit lawful systems for profit. I want to thank the Department of Justice, the United States Attorney's Office in the Southern District of New York, and our federal, our state, and our local partners whose outstanding work brought this case to this important milestone. Today, we're recognizing the results of a broad, coordinated investigation led by HSI Hudson Valley, New York, into an alleged nationwide and international marriage fraud network. The indictment unsealed today charges 11 individuals with participating in a conspiracy involving sham marriages, false filings, and also fraudulent documentation intended to unlawfully obtain government benefits. The alleged scheme operated for more than a decade and involved countless sham marriages, and it generated tens of millions of dollars in illicit proceeds. The investigation focused on a network that arranged sham marriages between foreign nationals and United States citizens. These crimes were not only taking place in New York, they reached across multiple states as well as overseas. The case highlights the type of complex, organized fraud that HSI is uniquely positioned to investigate. Marriage fraud is not simply a paperwork issue. When individuals or organizations allegedly manufacture relationships, falsify supporting documents, stage evidence, and attempt to mislead the federal process, they undermine the integrity of our systems, and these are relied upon by the public and the government alike. From the earliest stages of this investigation, HSI Hudson Valley special agents followed the evidence across criminal, financial, and administrative lanes. The work required patience, it required precision, and it required extensive coordination. Through the Homeland Security Task Force, investigators were able to seamlessly share critical information, connect leads across jurisdictions, and mobilize the full strength of our collective capabilities when and where they were needed most. Together, HSI and its Homeland Security Task Force partners combined complex fraud expertise, financial analysis, criminal investigative resources, and local knowledge to address an alleged network that reached beyond any one jurisdiction. I want to specifically recognize HSI New York's Hudson Valley office for its leadership in this investigation, along with the FBI, CIS, ATF, Army, CID, and many other law enforcement partners. Today's indictment represents an important step in the criminal justice process. HSI will continue to investigate organizations that seek to profit from fraud, deception, and the exploitation of lawful government processes. We will do so professionally, meticulously, and in close partnership with prosecutors and law enforcement agencies at every level of the U.S. government. I want to thank the special agents of HSI, our task force officers, analysts, prosecutors, and every partner agency that contributed to this investigation. Their work reflects the best of coordinated law enforcement in the United States. Thank you.
All right, thanks, everybody. We'll take a couple of questions. David?
Is there any evidence that these people wanted to come to the United States to spy for China? Is there an espionage aspect to this?
Not as alleged in the indictment, no. I mean, I think that as the U.S. Attorney mentioned, this investigation, as you would expect, given the numbers and what we described today, is not over. So if there's more to come in that space or anywhere else, you'll hear about it, but not as alleged in the indictment.
Separately, if I could ask you, on the Anthony Fauci contempt referral, is there any update on that? Is your office closer to coming forward with any decision on that?
Well, no, I don't have an update. As you guys know, when the Department of Justice receives a referral from Congress, there's a process. There's a process of how we take it in and how we investigate it. But any update that I would expect to come from this department would be if there's ultimately a decision made, and that certainly won't be anytime soon.
In the reflecting pool case, Baby Hearn.
What about the reflecting?
The White House has asked you guys to come forward and look at potential misdemeanor. Is there any update on where you guys are with that?
I don't know what you mean by the White House has asked us to do that, but no, I don't have an update on that. I think there's been a lot of comments and source-based comments about what, if anything's happening with that case. The judge ruled in that case, or we're waiting for the ruling, and I don't have an update, no.
We've learned that the Justice Department has unsealed the case against the former chief financial officer of the Southern Poverty Law Center. Can you please speak a little bit about what you've learned as part of that investigation and if we should expect more charges?
So I'm not. So yes, today my understanding is today there was an arrest made, and there is a new indictment that includes the former CFO of SPLC. I don't have any comments about whether we've said from the beginning, everybody, not just me, but anybody who's talked about this case, like virtually every criminal case, the fact that an indictment is returned doesn't end the investigation. It's just part of the investigation in most cases, which is certainly true in this case. I think as alleged in the indictment, this individual participated in the scheme as alleged. I believe she was part of the effort to open bank accounts in completely fictitious companies' names and make payments to individuals for reasons that were not that they were not accurate as described. But I don't have. I think the indictment was unsealed this morning. I don't have, or I believe it was unsealed this morning. I think the arrest was this morning. I don't have anything to say beyond that, except to say that this is exactly what we said would happen in a case like this, which is that our investigators and the U.S. attorneys and the agents working the case can keep on working it even after the initial indictment.
Thank you. Question about yesterday, President Trump said that he's exploring federal options against New York City's second home tax. Is the DOJ exploring legal options to counter that tax right now?
I don't have any comment about what we're doing to explore legal options with respect to that tax. I think that's a combination of the Department of Justice and potentially other agencies that would look into what to do. The president's spoken publicly about his views of it, and the Department of Justice has filed civil lawsuits against cities all over the country where appropriate, but we haven't filed a lawsuit yet, and I'm not going to comment on what we're doing around that. Yes.
Thank you so much. Oh, thank you. The Justice Department's been investing a lot of resources in combating fraud on taxpayer programs. In addition to cases that target beneficiaries and providers who file fraudulent claims, can we expect to see the Justice Department pursue state officials who have been aware of extensive fraud but have failed to stop it?
Well, we've talked extensively, as has the Vice President of the task force, that we very much believe that one of the reasons why we have a massive fraud problem and a massive issue of people stealing from taxpayer money is because state officials are not doing their job in making sure that there's appropriate checks in place to stop the fraud. Now, there's a difference between a state employee or state official not doing their job and committing a crime. And so when we look at some of these programs that are being administered by the states and we see absolutely no effort to do anything to police who's receiving the money, then that's something that we, of course, will investigate. But that's different than whether we will ultimately charge an individual with a crime. If we learn that an individual has committed a crime, whether it's a participant in the scheme, a leader, or a city official, or a city leader, yes, we will absolutely indict and prosecute that person, which is what we would do in any case. But I do think that, as the Vice President has talked about repeatedly, one of the wake-up calls we hope governors and city officials will take from what we've been doing over the past 6 months, 9 months, is to realize that they need to, this is money, this is taxpayer money, the generosity of the American taxpayer, and so they need to do their part to make sure that they are the first line of defense, that the people applying for these benefits are entitled to receive them. But if we learn that they're not only closing their eyes and letting it happen, but affirmatively helping in a criminal way, we'll definitely move forward with that. Yeah.
That. It's been a while now since Vice President Vance referred the top Democratic leadership of Minnesota to DOJ for this type of investigation. Can you talk about the status of where that stands?
Of where an investigation, the leaders of
he referred it over here. Is that something you've opened on, or you intend to, or can you just are you making progress toward that end?
We've spent a ton of resources, and we continue to spend a ton of resources in Minneapolis combating fraud, and that includes a very intense look at the leadership and the programs and who's administering them. But beyond, and the governor knows that, and everybody knows that, and that should be the case. That's what every single person should expect us to do as the Department of Justice. But I don't have an update or comment on how that's progressing beyond the fact that, yes, we have a lot of resources spending there, yes.
Attorney General, this is either for you or for the U.S. Attorney. There's a hearing scheduled for Friday in the Luigi Mangione case, and the question is whether does this indicate that there might be a plea in the offing in that case? Is there anything you can update us on that issue?
Yeah, go ahead.
There's a conference scheduled for 11 a.m. on Friday, and that's all we can say at this time.
On this case for the attorney, I was curious about what were the common themes here of people who were Americans that were targeted in this? If you can clarify how this was, maybe discovered and how these people were found to take part in this.
It's a good question. I'm not sure that there was a common theme with respect to the Americans. I think there were common themes in respect to the ways that they were recruited. They were recruited through various networks. The individuals that we've charged today, some of them were recruiters. They were out trying to identify people who would serve on the other side of these sham marriages. They then used their own networks to try to recruit additional people. A significant amount of it was done through various methods of communication, including social media advertisements that were sort of veiled where they may not have been apparent on their face that they were recruiting U.S. citizens to participate in these sham marriages, but that could lead to the initial discussion, and then in those discussions they were recruited to be part of the scheme.
Alex.
One on this case, just on the number of marriages, the 1,000 number, what happens to the people who receive the green cards? Is there a process where they're going to be ultimately have their green cards revoked? And then on a separate question afterwards, if I can.
Sure. So it depends on the circumstances. So this scheme started in 2016, ended now. We just brought it down. And so depending on where a criminal, because that's what they are, where they are in the process of the immigration process. Some of them will be earlier on, some of them already have their green card, some of them may actually already be citizens. So depending on where they are, yes, that's part of the investigation that we're doing now, and there's a lot of work. There's thousands of marriages that we're looking into, and so I expect that there will be more work, whether that's civil, like you just asked, where you're pulling their immigration status and deporting them, or criminal, depending on the circumstances and the proof that we have. Exactly, but that's a big effort that we're undertaking now, and I think that it's hard to say this is what will happen with every single sham marriage, because it depends on the evidence and the factors.
Just on a follow-up. The president has never gone as far as you have to say that the anti-weaponization fund is dead. Now that you've been confirmed, narrowly because arguably of that anti-weaponization fund, the president said this week he'd leave it up to you. What's your answer? Is it dead, and is it ever going to come back?
Well, so I quibble with that because the president said in the cabinet meeting that it's dead. He's also said that he likes it, but he has also said it's dead. Now, as for me, and I keep on saying this over and over again, but I'm happy to say it one more time. I have testified under oath that it's dead. I have testified in front of the House where I wasn't under oath, where I said it was dead. I have answered questions after my hearing where I said that it was dead. I have rescinded the order that set up the weaponization fund, which means that it does not exist. As we've said repeatedly, there were never commissioners. There was never any money went anywhere. So I'm not sure how I can further say that the anti-weaponization fund doesn't exist, or we use the word dead. But if anybody has any ideas, we also have said under oath that if Congress would like to make it a law, that we would support that, as would the White House. So I'm not sure. I get that this is a super fun story to not let die, but I don't know what else to say except that yes, the president feels very strongly, as do I, that there were people who were victims of a Department of Justice that was absolutely weaponized, and he feels very strongly that he would want to make them whole, as do I. But it will not be through the anti-weaponization fund, which again was never set up, and nothing has happened with it. But thanks, Alex. Sarah.
I'm short. I have an on topic and an off topic. On topic, I know that
SDNY in particular actually has done a lot of investigations over the last several years into, people who were harassed by China, who are political dissidents, who are trying to escape oppression. So I'm curious if any of the people in these 1,000 marriages were maybe in that position where they were trying to get cover, to protect themselves from, being harassed by China. That's my on-topic question.
So I think, and Jamie can speak more to this if he chooses, but it's hard to label a particular marriage and a particular reason or why it happened. You're right, Southern and Eastern District of New York have had a lot of cases in that space over the past couple of years. When I will add, though, that if there is a Chinese national who feels like they're being harassed, they have other ways to remedy that besides entering into a sham marriage, right? You can't, just because you're being harassed doesn't give you the right to go commit a crime. So, but yeah, I don't think it's fair to try to say some percentage or some number may have separately claimed that they were harassed, so.
My off-topic, I was just curious if there were any updates. We've been having primaries across the country, and as usual, the Civil Rights Division has been sending monitors in some of these places to sort of keep tabs on things. In the past, the head of the Civil Rights Division has said some of these counties have had irregularities, she said in the past. What's been the feedback so far? Have you spoken with people in the Civil Rights Division to see what they're observing in these primaries, and if you have any concerns that they have raised as they've been observing polling places?
So I don't have an update necessarily today to say here's what we're doing, but yes, that is something that the Department of Justice, as every Department of Justice does, is making sure that we're appropriately monitoring between now and, you're right, there's primaries, but up through the election, and we'll continue to do that. I think there's not anything secretive about this process. There's not supposed to be. I don't think there should be. So to the extent that the Civil Rights Division is doing something, we're not going to do it in secret. You'll know about it because it's important the American people know about it, because we're doing it to make sure that we have elections that are fair and run the right way. So all right, I'll take one more question. Got it. Go ahead.
Next week, there's a deadline in the Comey case. The defense has said that there was evidence that was gathered by the government that suggested there were alternative reasons, sort of the restaurant narrative of '86. How confident are you today that that case will survive to trial and ultimately result in a conviction?
So I'm not going to comment on a defense filing in any case, because that's not fair to any of the parties involved. And so I don't have a comment on the way that every case works in this country is that when every indicted case it means a grand jury has returned an indictment. That means that a grand jury found probable cause that a crime has been committed, and there's a trial. And there's a lot of cases as a prosecutor that I felt were definitely going to get convictions, and that didn't, or that it was a tough conviction. There's cases that were really, really tough that got convictions, and so I'm certainly not going to act like I have a crystal ball and predict what's going to happen with that case at trial. But it's enough to say that this was a case that was returned by a grand jury. It's not out of D.C. It's out of a district in North Carolina, and we'll go from there. All right. Thanks a lot, everybody. Have a good day.
Well, there you go. News coming out of the DOJ revealing the details of a marriage fraud scheme, as the feds have broken up a New York City fraud scheme that engineered more than 1,000 sham marriages between Americans and Chinese nationals. Then the submission of fraudulent applications for green cards. So that there, the major information there from the DOJ. So we have that happening now. Let's go to a couple sponsors as we move on with our broadcast here on the network. Let's go to All Family Pharmacy. If you've been hearing more about peptides lately, you may be wondering what these options are and where to find them. You already know All Family Pharmacy is RSBN's trusted pharmacy partner, but did you know they also offer peptides and biohacking options? For those of you looking to support your overall wellness, energy, recovery, or weight management goals, they offer different options worth checking out. Now all 25% off, and that includes NAD+, one of the most popular biohacking options right now, commonly used to support cellular energy and healthy aging. They also offer glutathione for antioxidant support, Samorlin to support the body's natural growth hormone production, and also GLP-1. Some of the options there for weight loss. So you can learn more and submit your order online at allfamilypharmacy.com/biohacking. Use that code RSBN25. From there, a licensed physician from their team reviews your information. If appropriate, issues the prescription. All Family Pharmacy handles the fulfillment and shipping all in one place, making the entire process super convenient. So you can see what might be right for you at allfamilypharmacy.com/biohacking. Use that RSBN25 promo code at checkout, and you can order all the way up until Sunday night, August 16th, for that 25% off. Let's go to one more sponsor before we go to our next live interview here on Right Side. You don't wait, of course, until your house is on fire to install a smoke detector, and you don't wait until the wind and rain hammer your windows and the power goes out to prepare for a hurricane, and you don't reach for your seatbelt after the impact, because after the crash or the hurricane or the house fire, it's just too late. Within that framework, you don't wait until the dollar goes to zero before you buy gold. It's just too late then. So you can diversify with precious metals now, because you never know what will threaten your savings next. Persistent inflation, a weakening dollar, unexpected financial disruptions. You don't know what's coming, but you can take a preventative step. You can do that right now by requesting a free info kit on gold from our friends at Birch Gold Group. And all you have to do to get everything started is text Trump to 989898. There's no obligation, no cost, just straightforward information on how you can diversify your savings, even an IRA or 401k with gold. We trust Birch Gold. You can trust them too. Text Trump to 989898. All right, let's move on as it's 1:35 Eastern Time. Looking live there in D.C., the Thomas Jefferson Memorial in the distance, as we go now live to Sarah Montalbano, a energy policy analyst at Always on Energy Research. Sarah, thanks so much for joining us here on Right Side Broadcasting.
Thank you so much for having me.
Definitely.
My pleasure.
Yeah, so can you translate yesterday's Wisconsin primary election outcome and what that means for energy prices specifically in the Badger State?
That's an excellent question, because I think this is a race everyone has been watching. David Crowley in the Democratic primary won over Francesca Hong only by about 3,000 votes. And Francesca, Ms. Hong, absolutely made things about data centers this election cycle. She's run explicitly on a data center moratorium, while Crowley has issued the statement that he would require data centers to bring their own clean generation. What that means for energy is that we're going to have a choice here between putting restrictions on data centers and not allowing them to connect to the grid, rationing grid supply, or whether Wisconsinites choose to take the Tom Tiffany approach and focus on keeping dispatchable resources online and running to meet this new demand.
So it's a very interesting thing. Can you just give us that, I don't know, if you go to the maybe the grocery store and it says Idiot's Guide for Idiot's Guide for AI data centers, power grids, energy. How do you see it out there? I know you've been writing for whether it's the Wall Street Journal and other places. Can you share with us your insight on that?
Yeah, thank you. This is, I think, all anyone's talking about in energy right now is data centers. And I think our approach to this is that data centers are not necessarily the cause of higher rates that we're seeing today, because rates are a lagging indicator of the policy choices that have already been made. And what we've seen in our various projects at Always on Energy Research, including BlueStatesHighRates.com, which conveniently released today. All of this comes down to, or at least most of it comes down to policy choices. And for instance, here in Wisconsin, prices have risen 109% from 2001 to 2024, the second fastest increase in the Midwest, outpacing the national average by 41%. And all of that was before any hyperscale data centers hit the headlines.
It's interesting to see it. We know that they're popping up in various places across the country. We had a guest on the other day saying they would like to see them more in an industrial corridor instead of maybe certain spots out there. But, you know, that's one of the things that we're seeing happen here in this country right now. Can you talk to us about some of the other research that you've done? And I know you write about energy and natural resources.
Thank you. Yes, this has been a really exciting day because of our BlueStatesHighRates.com report. We've profiled all 50 states and DC, plus various grid regions, and tried to explain the 6 policies that we really feel are impacting ratepayers' rates. Other than that, Always On Energy Research does a lot of cost and reliability modeling for anyone that cares to look into it in their states, model the cost of policies before they actually get enacted, so policymakers know what they're getting into.
Awesome. Sarah Montalbano, the energy policy analyst at Always On Energy Research. Thanks for the insight into the specifics there with AI data centers and energy as well. Thank you again, Sarah.
Thank you so much for having me.
Definitely. All right, a little bit more insight there. You know, it gets down in nitty gritty when it comes to understanding energy, energy policy, AI data centers, all the things. As we continue our live broadcast here, we have a couple more live interviews coming up. But before we get to those live interviews, as they are kind of scheduled out for the remainder of the broadcast, if we see President Trump at 2:30 Eastern time, of course, we'll take you there to the White House, as we know that specifically he has a signing time scheduled for today. Again, it's closed to the press at this point, but those have opened up before. So we'll see what happens if that happens here. In the meantime, let's go to the Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy, recently speaking about air traffic control and the radars that are out there. Of course, what a job that would be, to be an air traffic controller. That would be quite stressful. Let's go to clip number 3 and hear from the Secretary of Transportation.
This is a massive, massive build that we've undertaken. Even when we talk about radar like this, or the radar we're deploying across the country, we don't buy those off the shelf. Like, people don't just build those and wait for someone to come to the store and buy them. They're built to order. So we order them, and then they have to be built for us. And this undertaking is so big, the order is so large, it's taking some of these companies a little bit of time to actually build what we need to deploy for our airspace. And as the administrator mentioned, we have made a requirement that this equipment be built in America, with American jobs, the American workforce.
All right, let's go from the Secretary of Transportation to the Missouri Senator Josh Hawley, a recent speech, at least a little portion of that. Let's go to clip number 4 right now.
Festus, Missouri is a river town of about 12,000 people, just south of St. Louis. It sits right along the bluffs of the Mississippi River. Now, a couple of months ago, a city council meeting there packed hundreds of local residents into a high school gymnasium. I don't know if you've ever been to a small town city council meeting, to a planning board or commission meeting. People do not come to these things in the middle of the week. They don't come to them ever. They did in Festus that night, and one by one, nearly 40 different citizens went to the microphone and lined up to ask questions. The deal was this: the city council was going to approve a $6 billion data center. The residents had questions, and they spent hours forcing the council members to answer them. Questions like, who pays for the power? What happens to our water? What happens in the end to our town? The city could only answer by pointing to the developer's promises that everything will be okay, promises that the developer would pay for all of it. Standing on those promises, the council approved the project. 1 week later, 1 week, the Festus voters gave the council their own answer. Every incumbent up for re-election lost his or her seat. Every single one. The people of Festus did not ask to be at the center of our national argument about artificial intelligence, but they did prove something our forefathers would have recognized at once: that the choice this country must make is still made by us, not for us. That's the covenant asserting itself. Free men and women refusing to be ruled by promises that they never consented to.
Some great words there from the Senator Josh Hawley in a speech just recently, as we're looking at the 2026 total solar eclipse that's starting to happen. We'll go to that in just a second. All right, parents, grandparents, real talk for a second. Democratic Socialists are winning primaries and gaining political influence heading into the 2026 midterms. And their ideas in favor of higher taxes, welfare programs, and bigger government are not only threatening our way of life today, but they could destroy your children's future. Of course, your kids are bound to hear more about socialism as we approach the midterms, but depending on the source, like maybe their public school teachers, they could be hearing that socialism is better than capitalism and that socialism is the answer to all our problems. Of course, parents, we want to be in control of this conversation so our kids don't risk being brainwashed into believing these lies. That's why I want to tell you about the Kids Guide to Fighting Socialism. It's designed specifically for kids. This important guide explains the difference between capitalism and socialism's big brother communism in a way kids can understand. It explains crucial concepts such as free markets, individual freedom, and government overreach. The Kids Guide to Fighting Socialism also helps kids understand why socialism and communism have never worked by taking your kids through different historical examples from Plymouth Colony's failed attempt at socialism, Cuba's disastrous situation, and across the globe to the Soviet Union and communist China to really show them how socialistic practices failed miserably. And remember, with the midterms coming up, this is especially important for kids to learn right now. That's why the Kids Guide is giving you the Kids Guide to Fighting Socialism for free today. It's all part of a free gift bundle that also includes the Kids Guide to Free and Fair Elections. The guides are free and yours to keep. You just need to pay that $2 for shipping and handling with this special offer. To learn more and order your free copy of the Kids Guide to Fighting Socialism and your free bonus guide, just visit that website right there on the bottom of your screen, kidsfightingsocialism.com. That's kidsfightingsocialism.com, and maybe the most important thing you do for your children or grandchildren this year. Great sponsor here on Right Side. If you'd like to donate to Right Side, all you have to do is go to rsbnetwork.com/donate, rsbnetwork.com/donate. Not sure if we have an image of the total eclipse that's happening right now, but we can go to that if we do. If we don't, maybe we'll check that out in a little bit. And there it is, happening across the earth in various places at this point. So other than that, pretty cool stuff. I've seen a total solar eclipse before. I know that's not what this is in this situation. Well, maybe it is actually, right there. I've seen one, you remember the one back in 2017? It was, what was it, the something of totality, all the things. Trying to jog my memory, but what an awesome sight to see when there's a total eclipse. It's powerful. It goes from 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I was in Clarksville, Tennessee for this. I was working at another network, and I remember seeing up there, and that, man, it was one of those things that's pretty awesome. And I remember running into a couple from the country of Chile, and they said they travel to all the total eclipses around the world when they happen. Pretty cool. Nice retirement. So there you go. That's happening right now here live on Right Side Broadcasting Network. In the meantime, let's go to a great patriot. He is the CEO. This is awesome footage. Look at that right there, live here on Right Side. Let's go to the CEO of the Flag Shirt. Steve Stern is standing by live. Sir, thank you so much for joining us here on Right Side.
Well, glad to be here today, and hopefully we'll talk a little bit about election integrity. We've had a lot of meetings about that, and as you know, you heard Wayne Root interviewing President the other day, and there's a whole storm now. Everybody seems to be finally realizing it. So we started this about 2 years ago on our election security call. Peter Tickton, Wayne, General Flynn, and our good friend John Goodman, who researched all this, and really he kept knocking on doors until Wayne Root actually got to the president. And that happened last week in Las Vegas. President Trump was there and Wayne was there. And Wayne came up to him, looked him in the eye, and he said, when he texted me afterwards saying that the president didn't look that good, that he's working too hard, and I think he's cut back his schedule about 20%. And he said to him, while they were saying it, do you know what the national security emergency for elections is? And President Trump said no. And he was going to have Matt Brasso give him a call and discuss it. And then Wayne scheduled a meeting with him. And prior to the meeting and the interview this past Monday, he asked him prior to the interview about the national security thing. And then they discussed it during the meeting. And Wayne was on numerous programs, including ours last week, including Steve Bannon many times now, discussing this. And why is this important? Because, we've been talking about the SAVE Act now for 6 months, a year, who knows, and it's never going to pass. And the only thing that we have to look forward to is this National Security Emergency Act for elections, which will protect us and will make sure elections are safe. Now, you know, six months ago, they invaded Fulton County and they took all the ballots out of there, and we still haven't heard anything on. They did the same thing in Maricopa. We have the same thing. So we're waiting to hear this because in the last election, we all saw how people were stuffing the ballots in Atlanta, how they closed, they kicked people out who are poll watchers and pollers, and we knew that the election was stolen. And, you know, I met with President Trump a couple times and we discussed that. And I think that we've got to get to this election. And one of the problems that we have now is that, and you probably spoke to people saying that, why aren't people coming out to vote? I think that's one of the most important things. If we don't get our Republicans out to vote, we have no chance of winning the midterms. Now, I'm in Florida. We have early voting going on. Saturday on early voting first day in one of the most busiest places that right here in Weston, where I live. We didn't get more than 50 people to vote last year, over 1,000. Well, that's a big difference. You know, Sunday, 60 people came out to vote. Now, what is that telling us? That's telling us that either, and people are, you know, I'm the vice chair of Broward County. We have a voter guide. People are calling me all the time who to vote for. They don't even know who to vote for. I mean, the candidates have been round and round all over, you know, South Florida here, introducing themselves at meetings, being on TV, being on radio. And, you know, I feel bad that somebody asked me who to vote for because that means that they're not researching it and finding out who they really like. Now, of course, I can tell them, but the point of the matter is they should have their own opinion and they should listen and, you know, go over that. So we have a big event coming up. We just passed one the other day, but we have a big one coming up September the 2nd, and that's going to be our precinct project and our election integrity call. And we have some real stars going on. We're going to have our friend John Goodman on. I mean, he always gives us the latest information. He's round the clock. We're going to have Dr. Robert Epstein on. I don't know if you know Dr. Robert Epstein, but he's a Democrat, but he helps us because he has a whole company that's trying to stop Google from swaying the election. Now, a lot of our people, just like they ask me who to vote for, they may go into Google and say, well, hey, I want to vote, you know, in District 20, who should I vote for? And Google is going to tell you the Democrats, not the Republicans. Then we're going to have Marley Hornick on. We're going to have Sheriff Richard Mack. He just wrote a book, and he's going to be talking about that called The Democratic Murder of America. You were talking about socialism, so this tells you a lot about it, and he will talk about that. I don't want to give it away. We're going to have Selena Rifkin. We always have a podcaster on. A lot of people ask Steve, hey, how do you get 8-9 million people on your broadcast when some of these major networks can't get that? Well, we have 150 podcasters that stream us. And each time that we bring one on. And Selena is in Connecticut. Really good girl. It took me a while to find her. And we got on her show. And she's going to be on our show. And we try to bring a spotlight to each of the podcasters so they can spread the word. Because let's face it, who's going to spread our word, but not for the conservative podcasters around the country? And, you know, I just was on the phone about a half an hour ago talking to somebody about how so many left-leaning people are talking about this national security election for national security emergency for elections. And they're all saying, oh, it's bad. It can't happen. It's going to happen because if we don't do that, we're going to have illegals voting the same way. We're going to have the machines. We're going to have you know, people voting twice. It's amazing what goes on in a free country like the United States, where, you know, in Europe, they have paper ballots. You know, we want to have paper ballots and just count paper ballots. And, you know, that's going to be one of the real things. Not the Democrats against no photo ID makes no sense. You know, like we were just kidding in New York, if you want to do a snowplow, you got to show your ID. Well, you got to show your ID everywhere. You know, if you want to drink and you're 18, blah, 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 you got to show your ID. Now, during our election call, we have our precinct strategy call also. And why is that important? You know, I've been working with Steve Bannon, with Dan Schultz on precinct strategy. And now what we're doing is we're doing precinct project. And what is that different than our precinct strategy? Well, we still do precinct strategy, but precinct strategy is a website where people go on and they find out how to belong to the Republican Party. But Precinct Project will answer your calls. We have Velma Ruth, who's our administrator. She's on 24/7. We have one person in every state. So let's say, Matt, you want to join the Republican Party in Tennessee or wherever you are and where you're living today, and you don't know how to do that. So you send us a note. We give you somebody there, and they tell you how to get involved. And why is that important? Because, I'm 85, and, the people in the Republican Party are between 60 and 85 mostly. We're not getting young people on. So we have on our precinct project call YRs, YR standing for Young Republican. They have to be under 40 years old. And we had a tremendous gentleman on last time, and we're going to have Troy Olson on this time. And they're from the Manhattan YRs that have 2,000 people. So we've been working closely with getting new young people involved, because in the schools, you talked to socialism before, they're getting brainwashed into socialism. And that's why you have so many of these people in the blue states voting for these socialistic candidates, because they've been brainwashed in the schools. And that's what they're taught. Socialism is the answer, and, it's rising, and we're not stopping it, because we're not telling the people what to expect. Now, I've tried to come out to President Trump, and I think you'll agree with this. We need somebody in his administration that's listening to the grassroots people. We hear every day what's going on. President Trump goes around the country telling us what's happening, but he's maybe not listening to the people, because the people are telling me, hey, they don't want to come out to vote for numerous reasons. One, they don't feel the election is secure. Two, the Iran war. Three, that we're doing a lot for Israel. Now they don't understand what it is, and he's got to go out there and explain it so that people understand. Because if they don't understand, they're not coming out to vote. And if they don't come out to vote, the Democrats are going to wipe us out. Now, Seth Kessel has put out a list. The election is going to be close, and there's a list out there of the 2025 swing areas in the House that are going to be important. We have that. If anybody wants it, they can email me at stern1054@gmail.com, and they're welcome to come on our election security call. By the way, tomorrow I'm going to be interviewing Tina Peters. She's our face for election integrity. So you can come on Stern American Rumble at 3 o'clock, see this interview. And at the end of the interview, we're going to be talking about precinct project, precinct strategy, how you can get involved. So in our remaining minutes, I know you gave me about 10 minutes. You have a few questions. Glad to answer them as usual.
Well, also, Steve, first of all, you're a workhorse. You're 85. You're just not quitting. You don't stop. I've known about you for several years now. You have all of these calls around the country, these Zoom meetings, and it's only grown, and it's great to see that. And to your point, John Goodman out of Florida, who's been on this broadcast before, who really started talking about this national emergency election situation. I'm waiting and seeing what will happen with this situation. Will the president unveil that, just like he did when he became president this second time around, and he said there's a national emergency on the southern border, and things started happening? We'll see what happens. I'm just covering that story, and I'm very interested in it. Thanks to John Goodman, and thanks to you. And we have about 30 seconds. Can you share with us again where people can watch that Tina Peters interview?
So you can go to Stern American Rumble. You could see all the podcasts that we've done and all the meetings, and go over some of these things, because there's a lot of important things. And we will have this on different podcasts tomorrow. We're not putting our whole effort in, because we just scheduled this yesterday, and being that close to get 150 podcasts to stream it. So we'll have probably 8 or 10 of our biggest podcasts streaming it. It'll be live there, and it'll also be there. If you can't get there from 3 to 4 tomorrow, you can always look at it live whenever you want to do it. We want to thank John, who's watching. John Goodman, he always helps me. And I know he came on. I got him on your show. We try to get him on as many shows as he can, because he spends the time researching in the library. He spent as much as 12 hours one time on the Constitution. So we try to get him on as many shows as we can, so he can express that. We need more diversity of people getting on these shows that have intelligent information about election integrity, because there's a lot of people spouting stuff and they have no clue what they're saying. You know what I mean? And he's an expert, and we need experts. Now, my job is to get all the experts, find them, bring them on our show, and, let them know. And then we get them on your show, or we give them to you so you can bring them on, or we give them to Steve Bannon or whoever. We share whatever we do. So if you're a podcaster watching this and you want to stream our stuff anytime, please do that. Thanks very much, Matt, for having me. We met a number of years ago at the Turning Point Convention in Arizona, and we've been friends ever since. And, whatever you call me, I'm there for you. So anytime you need me, I'm glad to be here.
Right back at you, Steve Stern. Thank you so much, the CEO of the Flag Shirt. Thanks again for what you're doing for the country. And John Goodman, hello to you, too. I know you're watching, because he sometimes texts me and say you are. All right, thank you so much, guys. Thanks, Steve. Awesome stuff there with Steve Stern here on Right Side. He's been on the broadcast from time to time here on RSBN. We have one more live interview to get to in just a second, but let's go to some of our sponsors in the meantime. Kalshi.com/RSBN, a number of topics, as you guys know, whether it's politics, elections, sports, commodities, on and on and on. People are betting, trading, and checking out the polls right there on one of our great sponsors, Kalshi.com/RSBN. You can go that route, you can go the QR code route, or you can download the app. 3 ways to get the Kalshi, great sponsor. More than 1 million users on that site, and that number is growing. Let's go to our next sponsor here on Right Side. You see Cove Pure on your screen. At the end of the day, most of us know there's chlorine in our tap water. Sometimes you can actually smell the chlorine in that tap water. And sometimes you shrug and you drink it anyway because, hey, we've been, in some ways, brainwashed because we've been told it's what keeps our water safe. But what they don't tell you is what chlorine becomes after it's added to your water. And that's exactly why it's so important to filter your water through Cove Pure, because chlorine itself isn't even the biggest problem. Chlorine levels in your water are regulated, but what's not regulated are chemicals that form when chlorine reacts with naturally occurring organic matter from rivers, soil, and plant matter. When chlorine interacts with those particles, it creates chemical byproducts called THMs, and then the government itself calls THMs probable human carcinogens. They've been linked to disruption of your gut. They've also been linked to cancer. Those pitcher filters you get at the store won't fix this. They improve the taste of chlorine, but THMs require something far more powerful, and that's exactly what this product is. Their Clearwave reverse osmosis technology is certified to remove up to 99.9% of contaminants. So it's not just chlorine or THMs, fluoride, PFAs, pharmaceuticals. Basically, if it isn't water, Cove Pure removes it. And this thing doesn't take up much room, as you see there. You can just put it right there on the kitchen counter. You just plug it in. You don't have to call someone in to install it. The best part about Cove Pure is it also lets you choose whatever temperature water you want. No more waiting for the kettle to boil to make a cup of tea or coffee. Just tap a button and you get hot, cold, or warm water instantly. The feedback on Cove Pure from our viewers has been incredible because people have told us they can literally taste the difference. Clean water is one of the best investments you can make for you and your family's health. And right now, they're giving RSBN viewers $250 off if you use our link. So it's just covepure.com/RSBN. Again, covepure.com/RSBN. Drink pure, live pure, Cove Pure. Good stuff right there on Right Side. Looking live, DC, of course, the great Thomas Jefferson Memorial, as it is now 2 o'clock on the East Coast. So that's what, 11 a.m. out there on the West Coast. And thanks again for watching from coast to coast here on the network. All right, let's move on. I believe we have a live interview coming up any second from now. And as they get that camera on and ready to go, we'll go to Tim Golding. He's a Michigan State Director for Americans for Prosperity. So as we await that, and there he is. Let's go to Tim right now, joining us live. Tim, thank you so much for joining us here on Right Side.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, definitely. So let's talk about the Michigan, election results and Al Saeed's policy implications for November.
Yeah, he is said he's not part of the DSA, the Democrat Socialists of America movement, but he 100% aligns with everything they espouse to want to change what they believe in and the policies they want to push forward in our country. And I can tell you that he cannot divorce himself from that. And all of the stuff he's put online in the last many years, when he ran for governor, as an example, back in 2018, he's a socialist. He wants the government to have more and for you to have less. He wants the government to take you from cradle to grave. And our organization, Americans for Prosperity Action, has endorsed Mike Rogers in that race. And his policies want to put more money in your pocket, more freedoms, more opportunities for Michigan families, American families. And Al Saeed is completely the opposite. He's bad for America. You don't fundamentally want to change something that you love, and he fundamentally wants to change everything about our country.
You have said it perfectly. And I remember watching, I think it was AOC, maybe Bernie Sanders, just those kind of characters at Al Saeed's kind of campaign events. And first of all, it looked very fabricated just from looking. I don't have receipts or evidence. It's just an opinion of mine. But when you watch some of it, it just seems like, I don't know, it looks like paid stuff to me. Just the way even the people are holding up their phones, acting like Bernie Sanders is some big star, acting like it's this big rock star event. We don't have to get into that too much, but tell us about the Americans for Prosperity, because when did you start it? Why did you start it? And tell us a little bit about your story, sir.
Yeah, Americans for Prosperity has been around for about 22 years. Started as an organization that wants to, in simple terms, reduce the size and scope and the interference of government in American lives and families to create more freedoms and opportunities for businesses and families. I actually learned about Americans for Prosperity when I ran for our state Senate several years ago. They endorsed my campaign and unfortunately didn't win. It was a very blue district around the Ann Arbor, Michigan area. But I decided that I want to stay in the fight and keep working for freedoms and opportunities. So I applied and got the job, and here I am. Our organization is the largest center-right, nonprofit, nonpartisan grassroots advocacy group in the country. We work in all 50 states. We have physical offices in 39 states, and every day we're out building communities, talking to people, letting people see the importance of their voice being heard in the political and the policy arenas, giving them the tools and the talents they need to do that. And we work again in all 50 states. It's a great organization, so we get to push back against some of these crazy policies that people want to push through.
For you personally, though, what was it that got you involved in politics?
As a business owner, I owned a business building and remodeling homes for 20 some years with my brother, and seeing how the government intruded in that business and made it harder to make money for my family and for our employees and for our subcontractors, pushed me along that path. And then COVID happened and a few things in my kids' schools that pushed me more and more towards wanting to have a seat at the table when decisions were being made that so dramatically affected my life and my business. So after COVID, when COVID hit, I got involved with a group that was doing some collecting signatures for a petition drive in the state. Got involved in touch with several state lawmakers, and I guess they saw my work ethic or my intestinal fortitude or whatever it is, and they asked me afterwards, have you ever considered running for office? And I said, yes, I have. And they said, well, we need you in the state legislature, so think about running. I did, and I left it in God's hands. My duty was to run hard and do everything I could to get elected, but the outcome didn't happen exactly how we wanted it. But it brought me here, and I think I have a bigger impact here than I would have had I been elected in a minority a couple of years, 6 years ago or whatever it was, 5 years ago.
Kind of more of an off-topic question. I know I can tell that you're on the right side of history. You're brilliant. Is there anything on top of what you're doing now that you feel like is even more extending to the purpose of why you're on this earth?
Well, I believe God created all of us with unique abilities and talents to, speaking religiously, further His kingdom, but to build into people, and in my case, recognizing that our founding fathers started this country, built this country, put our founding principles and documents together based on, quite frankly, godly principles. And I want to continue to push those through. I don't want people to come in and destroy those things that have helped us be the world's greatest nation for 250 years. Those principles work. We all were created and endowed by our Creator with certain unique gifts, abilities, and talents. And I want the government to get out of the way. I want the government to say, you know what? You're right, Mr. Joe Blow from Idaho. You can build a business, and we're going to let you do that. We're going to get out of your way, and we're going to let you create wealth for yourself and create freedoms and opportunities for your family. And the government, quite frankly, screws up everything it touches. And the bigger it gets, the smaller we get. And I want to change that. I want to change the trajectory of that. And I want more people to come help me do that. And that's why our organization, again, works all across the country every day to build into people, to give them the tools and the talents that they need to affect change in their communities. Because if you go down the path of socialism, capitalism, or communism, like El Said wants to go to, we will see that vanish. And, when the Berlin Wall came down, I didn't see anybody running towards the communist side. They all ran to the freedom side. And that's what I want people to do. I want them to charge forward and knock down those walls, remove those barriers. And we do that every day here at Americans for Prosperity.
That's awesome. I believe a lot of people are resonating with what you just said there. Isn't that a great point? They did not run toward the communist side. They said, hey, that side has freedom. And that's what we're hearing. I mean, President Trump at various rallies at the end talks about the Save America Act, but then he also really, the messaging sounds like going ahead in about 80 days from now for the midterms, on the ballot, socialism, communism against freedom. And you're working hard there in Michigan and impacting lives for God's kingdom, but also for this great country called the United States of America. What was that like for Freedom 250, America 250 for you when we celebrated our 250th last month?
It was great, and our organization is putting events on across the country every month. Different states are having big A250 events. We did a big one 2 weeks ago on the shores of Lake Michigan, actually, a couple hundred people just celebrating the greatness of this country. And to me, I was around in 1976 and remember that anniversary and the patriotism and the love of country and the celebrations and the red, white, and blue everywhere. We've lost some of that. And I want to get that back because God gave us this country and has protected this country because we've honored him for so long. And I want people to get back to that. We don't all have to believe the same way religiously. I'm not saying we do, but our country has been successful and prosperous and fantastic and great and all those wonderful adjectives you can add to it because we stood on the principles that God created every person with unique ability and talents and gifts, and they need to use that. And the government needs to get out of the way and let us do that. That drives me every day, and I hope at the end of this year there's a higher level of patriotism, higher level of love of country, and people get behind the fact that our voice does matter. Every vote matters. Every vote counts, and I look forward to getting up every day and helping people realize their American dream by having a voice.
My love for country knows no bounds. That's a quote that I saw just yesterday from the late, great Rush Limbaugh. I mean, that's exactly what it is. Our love for this nation, and a love for freedom, a love for what it's all been built on. Sir, you're a rock star. You're awesome. This is the first time we've met, and it'd be great to have you back on the program sometime in the future. Tim Golding, the Michigan State Director for Americans for Prosperity. Thank you again for what you're doing out there.
Looking forward to joining you again soon.
That'd be good to see you. Good
Thank you.
stuff, man. Again, you know the people that speak our language, right? And that's the same thing that we've heard over the years with President Trump. He just told it like it was, tells it like it is, and we're like, okay, that's the guy. So that's what we like to see here in conservative media. You know, I was thinking the other day about establishment media and mainstream media, because a lot of times we just think mainstream is just left MSNBC, but there's established media out there too. And they're not doing the work of the people. Zero. Anyway, let's move on to our couple sponsors here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. You see All Family Pharmacy right there. If you've been hearing more about these peptides lately, you may be wondering what these options are and where to find them, because you already know All Family Pharmacy as RSBN's trusted pharmacy partner. But did you know they also offer peptides and biohacking options? For those of you looking to support your overall wellness, energy, recovery, or weight management goals, they offer different options worth checking out now, 25% off. You know, that includes NAD+. It's one of the most popular biohacking options right now, commonly used to support cellular energy and healthy aging. They also offer glutathione for antioxidant support, Somorelin to support the body's natural growth hormone production, and GLP-1 options for weight loss. So you can learn more and submit your order online at allfamilypharmacy.com/biohacking. Use that code RSBN25. A licensed physician from their team will review your information and, if appropriate, issues the prescription. All Family Pharmacy handles the fulfillment and shipping all in one place, making the entire process super convenient. See what might be right for you by going to allfamilypharmacy.com/biohacking. Use code RSBN25 to save 25% off before Sunday, August 16th. That is the last day of the 25% off. Let's go to Birch Gold Group here on Right Side. As you know, there are a ton of things that we can do to protect ourselves and incentive financially. We don't wait until your house is on fire to install a smoke detector, and we don't wait until the wind and rain hammer your windows and the power goes out to prepare for a hurricane. And of course, you don't reach for your seatbelt after the impact, because after the crash or the hurricane or the house fire, it's just too late. Within that framework, you don't wait until the dollar goes to zero before you buy gold. It's just too late then. Diversify with precious metals now, because you never know what will threaten your savings next. There's persistent inflation, a weakening dollar, unexpected financial disruptions. We don't know what's next, but you can take a preventative step. And you can do that right now by requesting a free info kit on gold from our friends at Birch Gold Group. Just text Trump to that number, 989898. There's no cost, no obligation, just straightforward information on how you can diversify your savings, even an IRA or 401k with gold. We trust Birch Gold. You can trust them too. Text Trump to that number, 989898. For more information, it's 2:12 Eastern Time. Thanks again for watching here on RSBN Live. I'm Matthew Alvarez. It's great to see you. I don't really see you. You see me. But I could see what you're typing if we go to the live chat. which we have before. Maybe we'll do that in a little bit. So what we're going to do here is it's 2:13 now. At 2:30 Eastern time, so what, 15, 16, 17 minutes from now, there's a closed press event. President Trump is signing something. It says signing time specifically. That's all it says on the schedule for the White House. If that opens at about 2:30, we'll take you there. If not, we'll most likely be wrapping the broadcast in just a little bit. But we have a little bit more to get to. Why don't we take a commercial break and let's stand by and see if we'll see the president today. If not, of course, we'll most likely see him tomorrow because he is accessible, and you see it a lot here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. I'm Matthew Alvarez. We'll be right back.
It's Silk from Diamond and Silk Chit Chat Live. Look, don't forget to watch my show right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's imperative that you do so, okay? Bye-bye.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First news. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
MyPillow's second annual mega sale is finally here. Get our patented premium MyPillows that adjust your exact individual needs to give you the best sleep of your life.
When I got MyPillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
I guarantee they're going to be the most comfortable pillows you'll ever own. King size only $24.98, queen size only $19.98. Giza Dream bed sheets, the best sheets in history, as low as $29.98. Lux Pierce 6-piece towel sets, towels that actually dry you. What a concept. Now only $39.98. And our made in the USA mattresses and mattress toppers as low as $99.98. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of our second annual mega sale. Plus free shipping options available when you order today. So don't delay, order now.
Welcome back to Right Side Broadcasting Network. Seeing a post from the White House just now. President Trump delivers for Ohio. Specifically, 1.2 million Ohio workers claimed $3.4 billion in deductions. 1.4 million Ohio seniors paid zero federal tax on benefits. Average Ohio tax refund, $3,308. Statewide homicides down 16.1%. Columbus homicides hit 16-year low in 2025. Billions in new private investment, thousands of new jobs. The Trump administration partnered with SoftBank so corporations, not Ohio families, cover data center costs there. This is a post just now from the White House there showing the president boarding that beautiful United States of America Air Force One with the new digs, the new paint. Looks great. I remember those days, don't you? Those that watch the rallies back in the day. Seeing Trump Force One fly over, in some cases Air Force One, as when he was president in the first term. And even how about the second term here with the July 4th festivities? That was quite the air shows that were happening throughout that day. And then the Guinness World Book of Records. Did I say it right? The World Book of Guinness World Book? Yeah, whatever. The huge firework display, the world's largest in America for our 250th. Pretty awesome stuff here on Right Side, as many of you guys saw. All right, so let's go now to the Health and Human Services Department, because Secretary Kennedy was recently talking about working with the Department of Housing and Urban Development to help Americans get off the streets.
Every dollar we stop a fraudster from stealing is a dollar preserved for its lawful purpose or returned to the American taxpayer. President Trump, Vice President Vance, and the White House Fraud Task Force and its entire administration will continue to follow the money, demand proof, and hold actors accountable. We will also continue to reward and recognize faith-based programs like this one that are doing such a good job at managing our money in ways that are effective. And we're going to continue to work with HUD to fund programs that get people off the street into treatment and recovery, and on that path towards self-sufficiency. Xavier Becerra came in and he instituted a program called Pay and Chase. What that means is when we get an invoice from a hospice that we know is fraudulent, we know that hospice is not treating patients. They've been busted before. We have algorithms that can identify that this is almost certainly a fraudulent case. His policy was you pay them and then you chase it. You go back and try to claw it back, which of course never happens. This was an insane policy. We shut that down. We now don't pay anything that we suspect to be fraudulent. And we have AI, we're using AI, machine counting systems, all kinds of algorithms to determine when payments come to us, to determine whether or not they're probably fraudulent.
Earlier this year, President Trump signed an executive order to establish the task force to eliminate fraud. And I'm proud of the work that HUD, HHS, and DOJ have done to bring accountability back to the government. These are two examples of waste, fraud, and corruption uncovered by our joint efforts. They highlight why we put LASA on notice. They will not receive another cent of American taxpayer money until they can account for every single dollar. Money, as we all know and all agree, does not grow on trees. Taxpayers understand this. American people understand this. We must and we shall be good stewards.
Scott Turner, the Secretary of the Department of Housing and Urban Development there after RFK Jr. speaking at that event as well. So great to see the two cabinet leaders there in Washington just recently. All right, so let's do this. We are going to go in a little bit. We're going to go to one of President Trump's Truth Social posts. Speaking of President Trump, in case you missed it, we're going to go to the tarmac last night. I believe this was in Ohio versus Joint Base Andrews in Maryland, where he spoke with the press for about 5 minutes. And that'll bring us to right about that 2:30 mark to see if the White House is going to be opening up any kind of availability, as the president has that signing time scheduled for 2:30. And we'll monitor that for a little bit. And, and if it doesn't happen in this live broadcast, of course, what we'll do is if we do see it start to pop, maybe it's an hour from now, we could still post it on various social media platforms. And those of you that follow us all over the place, thank you so much for doing so here on the network. All right, let's go to Kalshi.com in the meantime. Kalshi.com/RSBN, QR code, app, or Kalshi.com/RSBN, the three ways to get to Kalshi. I'm going to double check a couple things quickly on Kalshi right now. If you'd like to join me, if you're watching on TV and you have the phone handy, let's go to Kalshi.com/RSBN. We see here the South Carolina Republican Senate special election. A majority of the people putting their money on Darlene Graham, of course, the sister of the late Lindsey Graham, for South Carolina Senate for that position. Also, there's which party will win the U.S. House. You have the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, of course. People voting on either or there. Who will be the Nevada governor winner? Will it be Joe Lombardo or Aaron Ford on the Democrat side? How about in Wisconsin, David Crowley on the Democrat side or Tom Tiffany on the Republican side? How about the Michigan Senate winner? Will it be Abdul El Sayed or Mike Rogers on the Republican side? It goes on and on and on. So I just want to show you quickly here. You can just scroll through, and that's just politics and elections right there. And then there's a ton of other topics to check out. All right, we can go from Calshi to Cove Pier as we are awaiting the possibility of seeing the president here in just a little bit. CovePier.com/RSBN. Of course, we've been talking a lot about Cove Pier, and most of us know there's chlorine in our tap water. Sometimes you can smell it, that water or that chlorine, and then we shrug and we drink it anyway because we've been told it's what keeps our water safe. But what they don't tell you is what chlorine becomes after it's added to your water. That's why it's so important to filter your water through Cove Pier. Chlorine itself isn't even the biggest problem. Chlorine levels in your water are regulated, but what's not regulated is chemicals that form when chlorine reacts with naturally occurring organic matter from rivers, soil, and plant matter. And when chlorine interacts with those particles, it creates chemical byproducts called THMs. The government itself calls THMs probable human carcinogens. They've been linked to disruption of your gut and to cancer. So those pitcher filters that you see at the store, they won't fix this. They improve the taste of chlorine, but THMs require something far more powerful, and that's exactly what Cove Pier is. Their Clear Wave reverse osmosis technology is certified to remove up to 99.9% of contaminants. It's not just chlorine or THMs, fluoride, PFAs, pharmaceuticals. Basically, if it isn't water, Cove Pier removes it, and the thing doesn't take up much room at all. You put it right there on the kitchen counter, and you plug it in. Don't need to call someone in to install it. I sometimes need to call someone in to install it. I'll tell you what, I'm not the most handy in the world, but I'm working on it. Now, the feedback on Cove Pier from our viewers has been incredible. People have told us they can literally taste the difference. You know, clean water is one of the best investments you can make for you and your family's health. And right now, they're giving RSBN viewers $250 off if you use that link there. So it's CovePier.com/RSBN. And again, one of the best things about it, you can, with a tap of a button, you can go to, she's tapping the button right there, hot, cold, or warm for that purified, clean, much better tasting, and much healthier water. CovePier.com is that sponsor, of course, here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. Let's go to a couple more things. As we've been live since 12 Eastern time, so pushing 2.5 hours here. Let's go to one of President Trump's Truth Social posts. He said, quote, "The USA has total control over the Strait of Hormuz. I think we'll keep it. Our naval blockade is being called by everyone a, quote, wall of steel, and there is nothing Iran can do about it. They have no Navy. They have no Air Force. Their remaining soldiers are unpaid. The IRGC is decimated and fleeing, and their, quote, unquote, leadership is uncertain at best. They have no money. Their country is, quote, unquote, shot. All they have is fake news and 300% inflation and getting worse. Iran is all talk and no action. The bully of the Middle East no longer." And you see the final comment there by the president, President Donald J. Trump. So, you know, there you go. That's one of President Trump's Truth Social posts pretty recently. Speaking of the President of the United States, here's the Commander-in-Chief from his most recent press availability just last night on the way back from the Patriot games in Ohio. Let's go to clip one.
So the Patriot games were tremendous, a tremendous success. Great young athletes, the future of our country. And we had a great time in Ohio, a fantastic time in Ohio. The country's doing well. The stock market's fantastic record. We have 79 records so far in a short period of time. More people are working right now in the United States than ever before, and prices are dropping fast. Iran is going fine, going just absolutely fine. We totally control the Strait of Hormuz. We have control over it. Nobody else, only us. Our Navy is unbelievable, and things are going great for our country. Go ahead.
President, can you tell us about your ride on the airport catering truck in Turkey? Why did you need to do that?
Up to Secret Service. I just follow what they'd like to do. So I go by Secret Service and the military. They wanted me to go on a different flight, a different plane, equal safety, but they wanted me to do it, so I do it. I do what they say.
What was the nature of the threat?
There was a threat out there. I didn't really ask them much about it. I get a lot of threats.
President, Darlene Graham has made it to the runoff election in South Carolina. What are you going to do to help her get over the finish line?
She just called me to thank me for the endorsement, and it's great that she's doing so well, and she's a very good woman. And she's got good genetics because she's related to Lindsay, who's a real professional. So we'll see. I'm going to call her right now. She just called me 2 minutes ago. She won by how many points?
Well, it's not done yet. but she's clearly the victor as opposed to all the other people.
And that's good. That's what you want.
Will you campaign for her down in South Carolina?
I mean, just so you understand, I like the other people in the race also. They're all Trump. I mean, they're all Trumpers, but, you know, I endorsed her. I think she's great. It's really in honor of her brother, and she's really a very smart woman. You know, Lindsey loved his sister. More than anything else, he would tell me about his sister, that she's just outstanding. Yeah, he actually said, she's better than him. That was hard for Lindsey to say. So she's out there. She's doing a great job.
Mr. President, you've mentioned 2028 several times in the last few weeks. At the dinner, you put on a Trump 2028 hat. Are you serious about seeking a third term?
Everybody asks me that question, and you know that the law is very strong on that. I'd love to run, but the law is very strong. I get asked by well, even tonight, they're screaming at the event, 2028. No, everybody wants me to do it, but the law is very strong. Thank you very much, everybody.
Mr. President,
the Turkey flight, Air Force One still flew out of Turkey with press and with White House officials on it. How much had Shepard
went over to England, where it was shown to the soldiers?
It's still at risk, even though you weren't.
It went over to England because the soldiers wanted to see it.
Right, the one that flew.
And they showed it to the soldiers, and we did a switch over there. And it was really as per the military, and I just have to do what they say. They go for safety, and I have to do what they say.
why was President on the midterm for you to fly on Air Force One, but not too dangerous for the press?
The plane that I flew on was at greater risk. I think it was.
Say that, Mr. President.
That would be the plane. I think that they would be more likely to go for.
Mr. President,
were you surprised, Mr. President, that the Secret Service was telling you to take that third plane?
Not surprised. I have a lot of threats. I have a lot of threats that you don't know about. Any consequential president has a lot of threats. Non-consequential presidents don't get threats. And I think that I'm maybe the most consequential.
Was Iran deployed something off?
Nobody's done more than me in a period of almost 6 years. There's nobody.
Are you worried about a shoulder-fired missile?
I don't worry about anything, to be honest. Whatever it is, you know my attitude, whatever.
How can you trust Iran at all? And they tried to kill you, Mr. President.
Why? Are you saying I trust Iran? I'm the last person to trust Iran. They've lied to me constantly. We have total control over the Hormuz Strait right now. They don't have control. We have total control. We own it. And at some point, maybe they'll do something and then they get blown away. But right now, we're in a very good position. We have a country that has been the bully of the Middle East for 50 years. It's really 51 if you think about it, right? We've been saying 47 for 4 years. And they're no longer the bully of the Middle East. Thank you very much, everybody.
The President of the United States just last night after the Patriot games in Ohio. Okay, it's the bottom of the hour, 2:31. Looking like right now the signing time event is still closed press at the White House. So what we'll do is we're going to wrap up our broadcast, go over a couple of our great sponsors here. And before we do, just know that, again, if that is something that opens up, and I don't know, we'll see if it opens up at all. We'll definitely be posting that as well here on the network and possibly going live with it. We'll see what happens. All right, so 2:31 Eastern time. Thanks again for watching. Let's go to mypillow.com/RSBN. Of course, great sponsorship here on the network and a ton of quality products, as you guys may know. I remember asking on the live chat, I think it was this week or last week, how many of you have a MyPillow product? And many people said yes versus no. I don't think I saw any no's. So if that's the case, that means you all have a product. You all know it's good stuff. So if you'd like to purchase some more, it's right there, mypillow.com/RSBN. I believe it's still free shipping. He talked about that as well. Great sponsorship here, mypillow.com/RSBN. Also, if you'd like to donate to Right Side, all you have to do is go to rsbnetwork.com/donate, rsbnetwork.com/donate. For all of us here at Right Side, thanks so much for watching. I'm Matthew Alvarez. We'll see you again soon.